Here we go, as the man says, back and better than ever. Jeff Ricker, James Boyd. KB is on vacation for another day or two. Much well-deserved is the best way to say it. JB, man, it feels, I've only been gone for a couple of days. It feels like I've been gone for like a month. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm not sure that Kevin's vacation is well-deserved.
I
think he's getting a little lazy. I think he's, rubbing in his Oregon trip, which he actually isn't. I haven't seen many pictures of it. But hoping he's enjoying himself, and I'll see him in a couple of days.
It'll be good. And I know you had a very busy weekend yourself. You were traveling a little bit, but also keeping your toe dipped in the water of sports anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah, I work a big NCAA live period tournament in Romeoville every year, and actually I had a chance to run into Sasha Stefanovic yesterday.
Oh.
And the day before, caught up with him, the Crown Point grad, and now he is the director of player personnel for the Purdue Boilermakers. So a lot of Division I coaches were at my old stomping grounds.
What'd you learn?
I mean, a lot of high school kids want scholarships. I mean, other than that, there's some talented players there, some of the top players in the state of Illinois, and a couple of kids who might have a chance to play pro someday. But, after you go from being at the highest level of sport one week for the NBA Finals, the next week, when you're in a gym full of high school kids telling you they're going to go pro, you're probably thinking, show a little more humility.
Yeah, don't dampen the optimism, though. You got to keep them going, got to keep them real.
Yeah, they should not ask me then.
I was very, for what we've been used to and what we've been spoiled with and gotten accustomed to, is a pretty light local weekend of sports. I mean, even IndyCar had the week off. Caitlin Clark is still out day to day with a groin injury. The Fever played Friday night, looked good in a win there. Although this is a team that every time they're up 10, 11, 12, midway through the third quarter, I start to get a little bit nervous. Every time they're up 10 or 11, I start to get nervous, James.
Yeah, it's become a trend for them that they have to close games, and, obviously that changes things when Caitlin's not in the lineup, not in the mix. But I think overall, they've got to be pleased with, again, just stacking a win.
Yep.
Get them however you can.
We continue to live life without the Indiana Pacers after having that tremendous long run all the way to Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and it's funny. I was traveling a lot last week, and everywhere I went, every meeting I had, people were like, "Hey, so how's Tyrese Halliburton? How the Pacers going to do?" They really did capture the imagination of the country, James.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions about it myself when I went back home to my neck of the woods, and of course, a lot of it was, man, what if he didn't get hurt in Game 7, and what if he was healthy at the end, and what if, and I just felt like, what. That'll be a what if in a lot of our minds for a very long time, probably forever, honestly, because I thought that, again, this was an opportunity for them to shock the world, and they almost did. If it weren't for the injury, maybe we have a different conversation, but such is sports.
That's the way it works sometimes, and happy to be back and happy to be with everybody. Mark Dykton, I know that you had a chance for a lot of airtime this past week. You got some more coming up, too. How things going?
Good. I thought it went really well. I got some positive feedback, but I was like, if you don't like me, you're going to be sick of me by Saturday night, because I'm on the air a lot. So had a fun time with Eddie on the middays on Thursday. Had a great time with James on Friday, and then did Indiana Sports Talk on Friday and Saturday, and had a boatload of guests from all across the state. So it was fun times.
What'd you learn last couple of days?
Eddie White told me about the WNBA All-Star scavenger hunt they got going on that's going statewide across the state, all the towns they're visiting. So if you want to get tickets to the very impossible to get WNBA All-Star Game festivities, sign up at allstar2025.com, and you can get allstarhunt2025.com, and you can get email blasts of what town they're going to be in. You answer a trivia question, and they give you like a briefcase filled with tickets. So that's pretty cool. So
that'd be very cool.
There's a bunch going on there. Talk to minor league baseball, talk Colts. Kevin and James were kind enough to jump on the show. So it was a fun time.
Well, speaking of the Colts, this past week they announced their training camp schedule. They're going to have camp kickoff on July 23rd, which means everybody's going to report and check in 21st and 22nd, JB. What are you most looking forward to the first couple of days of camp?
I think the obvious answer is whatever Anthony Richardson is doing. I mean, is he going to be available to start a training camp? I know he told 24/7 Sports that he would be available, and he looks at this latest shoulder injury as a bump in the road. But for the rest of us, we're probably thinking it's a little more than a bump in the road, because you've had several of those throughout your career. And if you have a lot of those, we can no longer kind of trust you to stay healthy. So is he healthy enough to hit the ground running when training camp begins? I know Shane Steichen said initially they would ease him back in whenever he is available again. And so what does that look like, and does that allow Daniel Jones to take a what I believe to be a bigger leap or a bigger gap in this quarterback competition, because right now he is my QB1 for the Colts, mainly because he has gotten the most reps and he's a pretty efficient passer. Ball doesn't touch the ground too much with him. And that's one of the downsides to his game is that he's very conservative. Maybe he doesn't take a lot of shots, but at the end of the day, as Shane Steichen said repeatedly throughout this offseason, he wants consistency at the quarterback position, and I think that goes beyond just accuracy. It's health too.
Any idea of the length of this injury, this rehab, whatever they have going on? Have you been able to get any more information on that?
No, and quite honestly, I really haven't tried. I'll see you at camp. If you're out there, great. If you're not, it is what it is. I mean,
yeah.
And then the reason why is because
I just didn't know if you'd heard anything.
You don't know, like, to what capacity, hey, you're throwing again. Does that mean you're throwing full velocity? Does that mean you're just throwing it, a little bit? I will say, though, when he injured his right shoulder, and it is an injury. I know people were saying, oh, maybe it's just he's overuse. Whatever the case may be, if you can't throw and you're a quarterback, you're injured. And so I think one of the things that I'm curious to see is, just how he looks when he's throwing the ball whenever he does resume, because throughout the spring when he did get hurt, we never saw him, at least me personally, I never saw him like raise his right arm above his head or do like a mime or mimic type of motion with throwing the ball without the football. So when you don't see any of that stuff, I have no idea how to rate his arm, how to rate his health. And so we will see, like I said, if it's a bump in the road, as Anthony Richardson said, or if it's something more that we have to keep an eye on.
It's been a very bumpy road. It's very apropos for the roads in Indy, don't you think? Potholes everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I love Indianapolis, but
I do too. But it's just we got to fix the roads.
But the crossroads of America, I always say the crossroads of America are the worst roads in America.
I don't know what it is, but maybe it's the harsh winters. But even when they put stuff down, it doesn't seem to last very long.
I don't get it, man. I don't get it. But hey, it is what it is. I guess it's not my job, but I will certainly hope that at some point in my life I see some, less potholes in the road.
All right. It's the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff. Mark Dykton in today. KB is off for another couple of days. I want to talk baseball a little bit with you, Mark, because Central Division, here are the Reds. They've been playing well. They're 4 games over 500. They're still, I think, 5 games behind the Cubs, who are in first place. But all of a sudden, the National League Central, which has kind of been pretty middling for the most part of the last, decade or so as a whole, as a collective, playing pretty good baseball in that division right now.
Yeah, I was talking to, who was I talking to over the weekend? But, it was Will Carroll just discussed that the NL Central division all of a sudden is loaded with stars, young arms in baseball. You got Paul Skeens in Pittsburgh. You got Mizrowski now in Milwaukee, who's making some hay. You got Shota and Managa in Chicago. You got Anthony Abbott and Hunter Green in Cincinnati. You got all these young arms in the NL Central. All of a sudden, it's kind of like an arms race, if you will. So you're seeing a lot of young guys step up, a lot of big name, new name pitchers step up into the NL Central. But yeah, the Cubs kind of faltering a little bit. So all of a sudden, the NL Central is getting a little closer, a little tighter. So the Brewers, Cardinals right there. Reds aren't out of it by any means. So it's going to make for an interesting summer for sure. And then obviously we have the trade deadline coming up in just a little bit, about a month from now.
I just don't remember the last time we were over halfway through the season and 4 of the 5 teams were over 500.
Yeah, the Pirates are usually stinky, but all the other 4 teams are pretty solid so far. And like I said, those young arms definitely leading them along so far. So should be fun when the division games start racking up here in the summer.
And the Brewers have really played well lately. I think they've won 8 of their last 10. They're chasing the Cubs.
Every time I see the Brewers, I think of Joel Erickson and just probably how excited he is right now. And I just can't get over it. So.
That's good. A little bit later on today, we're going to be talking to Tony East. What are you most interested in hearing from Tony East today?
A lot of it has to do with free agency. I see the Pacers, and this was reporting from Tony East, they issued qualifying offers to Isaiah Jackson, Quentin Jackson, and Enrique Freeman, which basically means, I believe, when you are restricted free agents, another team would have a chance to, go after you, and the Pacers have the choice to match whatever salary you make. And a little bit surprised that the Pacers issued a qualifying offer for Isaiah Jackson because of the Achilles injury. So they must really trust his rehab, trust relationship to want him back after such a big injury. Not saying he can't be the same player again or a very good player for them, but again, his market must have been a little bit more robust than perhaps anticipated. At least I anticipated because of the injury.
Well, and that's the great part about the qualifying offer. You can make an offer at a price you're comfortable with, and you see if somebody else wants to outbid you, basically, is what happens at that point in time. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk a lot about the Pacers. You and I haven't had a great chance to discuss their draft. And, for a team that only had a couple of second-round picks, like, it's not going to change the franchise, but I thought they did okay.
I think they got some dudes, so we can definitely talk about that for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Take a quick time out. It's the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, Jeff, Mark Dykton in today. KB is on vacation. We'll talk more about the Colts, Pacers, and more next as we continue. 93.5 at 107.5, The Fan. Good Monday morning. Hope you're hanging in there. If you're not on summer vacation, hope you get one soon, or maybe you just got back. JB, you got any vacation coming up? I haven't talked to you much about vacation.
I was on vacation last week from The Athletic. I'll probably be on vacation again this week for The Athletic.
All right.
So
Getting work done here, though. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I haven't ditched you guys yet, but it'll come eventually.
All right, talk to Mark about that. He's one way or the other.
I'll teach you.
He's either doing shows or he's taking time. I don't know how he does it, but
I'll show you my ways.
He's the one guy that gets like 62 days of PTO. I don't know how that works.
That is true.
It's impressive. It's very impressive.
Rub elbows with the right people.
All right. Fairly light weekend of sports here locally. There are a few things going on, obviously, but the Indiana Fever haven't played since Friday night. Got a big road win at Dallas, 94-86. They had a huge lead. They came out of the gate in the first quarter and early second. I think they had a 19 or 20-point lead at one point, didn't they, James?
Yeah, and I just think it's, again, a testament to what they kind of done this season, which is get up big and try to hang on at the end, and it finally worked out for them because they had blown some big leads in the previous games. But, at this point, like I said, just stack wins however you can get them. And after the loss before this previous game against the Wings, Sophie Cunningham was saying, hey, it doesn't matter how it looks. We got to just get it done. They got it done against the Wings.
Still no Caitlin Clark. She's been listed as day-to-day now with that groin problem. They are supposed to play in the Commissioner's Cup Championship game in Minnesota tomorrow night. Not supposed to. They will play that. Whether or not she plays remains to be seen, because if she misses that game, I think the next one is scheduled for July 5th. And so, or July 3rd, I'm sorry, Thursday, July 3rd at Las Vegas. So she get a couple of more days off there if she ends up missing Tuesday.
Yeah, you got to see the big picture with Caitlin Clark. I know everyone wants to win the Commissioner's Cup, at least the players do, because of the money. I believe it might be like $500K per player, or I don't know if it's a pool they split, but point being, they get a big bonus if they win this. However, day-to-day with the groin, sounds like you probably should give it a few more days.
Yeah, we'll see. They are 8-8 so far, and they have won 2 of their last 3 and playing without Caitlin Clark. Meanwhile, Major League Baseball, Cincinnati Reds won yesterday at home over the San Diego Padres by a score of 3-2. Will Benson had a game-winning RBI single in the ninth. Then our guy, Ellie De La Cruz, had another big day. He and Spencer Steer each had an RBI with singles there. Elsewhere, we can tell you that the St. Louis Cardinals shut out the Cleveland Guardians to complete a 3-game sweep there. The Cubs got shut out by the Houston Astros, 2-0 the final score there. And over at Victory Field, there was something going on here in Indianapolis. The Indians beat the Omaha Storm Chasers by a score of 3-2.
Was that game?
They've won 3 in a row. Have you? Did you take the girls?
Yes, it was Jurassic Weekend. So the Jurassic Park movie comes out on Wednesday. So they had a bunch of dinosaurs out in the outfield. So we went out there, had a good time, sweat through our seats, but that was fine. Had a good time. So girls had fun, we had fun, and the Indians won.
All right, the Indians have the day off today. Cincinnati starts an interleague series in Boston against the Red Sox. St. Louis plays at Pittsburgh, and a very light schedule of Major League Baseball. NASCAR yesterday. How about Chase Elliott getting a win in Atlanta at the Quaker State 400, available at Walmart? Got to say all that stuff as you go on. It's one of my favorite things is to watch, and it was my favorite part about Ricky Bobby always mentioning every single sponsor whenever you do an interview. And I always like listen to those guys just run through the whole spiel, right? But anyway, Chase Elliott gets the win there, beat Brad Keselowski. And we can tell you there was no race for IndyCar. They will get going again at Mid-Ohio on the 8th. And looking forward to seeing some stuff there. Anything else you want to throw in over the weekend, JB?
No, I think that's about it for me. Like I said, it was good to see my guy, Sasha Stefanovic, from the state of Indiana, and now with the Purdue Boilermakers on their staff, and hearing him talk about their expectations for the season. Obviously, Braden Smith is quite a player, probably going to be the preseason player of the year, but that is some months away, and I will not rush it upon me because I feel like we were busy this spring for sure, but I don't know if it gets any busier than when we have like the overlap between, Pacers, and then we also have Colts, and then we also get ready for college basketball and college football as well. So, again, I'll enjoy these few weeks we have without, a lot of work. But I will say, Jeff, we have some stuff coming up pretty soon before training camp because we have All-Star Weekend here. Mm-hmm. So I'll get busy and crazy, and I expect Caitlin Clark to have a million obligations for media and fans and league stuff. So I hope she's resting up as well because she will not sleep throughout that weekend. It will not be a restful time for her.
No, it's going to be busy. I saw another video of her over the weekend where she comes out and there's just little kids wanting autographs on jerseys and basketballs. And she, my goodness, she'll just sit there and she'll sign every one of them. I think she knows, she's learned, I can tell, that you can't stop and talk that much because if you do, you might never, ever get out of there, but she does a really nice job of at least acknowledging and signing and passing by just about every kid that's out there, which I think is pretty tremendous. You don't see that all the time.
Absolutely. But I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I know you were out during the Dewana Bonner drama. So what's your take on the two-time WNBA champion saying after playing in 9 games, and I believe she made it through like maybe 14 games in the schedule overall, but appearing in 9 games, that she wants out, and the Fever have to pivot and sign Ari McDonald, who, by the way, has played well for this team. But your thoughts on that whole development.
Yeah, I think we can get into it in more detail and depth coming up in a few minutes here. But, when you hear wasn't a great fit, I don't know, sometimes you just don't feel comfortable in a place. But I also think as storied as her career has been and the things that she's been able to offer, I don't think she's quite what she used to be. And I think that the way that this roster is constructed and the way it started to develop, I don't know that she had as big a role with this team as maybe she thought she was going to have. I also wonder, with her partner playing in Phoenix, if it got to be untenable for her to just say, hey, man, if I'm not going to be completely happy here, maybe it's just better if I try to get back and do something there. It's odd when neither side has been really specific on what was going on in that vacuum, as you know. In that void, everybody starts to have an opinion and starts to come up with all these crazy theories. And sometimes it's true. I know it's not exciting and I know it's not drama-filled, but sometimes it just doesn't work out and it just didn't fit. And I think she wants a little bit more from the end of her career, and maybe she wasn't contributing as much as she thought she was going to. And sometimes those discussions don't go as well as you would like them to go when you have the behind closed doors with the general manager and the coach of the current team. And they say, hey, love you, love having you, but this is going to be your role, and I don't see it changing much.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see if and when she joins another team, what she says when a mic is stuck in her face, because if it is an opportunity for someone to ask, hey, what the heck happened, hopefully we get some clarity there. Or maybe not, but either way, it was certainly a unique situation, Jeff, where I thought that, one of the biggest free agent signings in your, franchise history ends like that throughout the season. How do you kind of pivot and reverse course from there? And one of the things Sophie Cunningham talked about, not in that specifically, but just the continuity overall from the team, from that aspect with Dewana Bonner to the health aspect with Sophie Cunningham missing games, Kim Clark missing games, and others. How do you kind of build and get ready for, just this second third of the season? I know they made it about 1/3 through the season so far. Can they get in a rhythm and kind of start stacking some wins? Because, yes, it's still early-ish in the season, but it isn't that early anymore. They got to start, doing some things and making some moves, make sure they're in the right position when it comes playoff time, with or without, obviously without Dewana Bonner.
Yeah, and you talk about Kelsey Mitchell, and real quick, we'll get into this a little bit more later, but Kelsey Mitchell's been playing tremendous, right? She was fantastic against the Dallas Wings the other night. She's been great. Obviously, Caitlin is there, and you start to wonder, someone like Dewana Bonner, how comfortable was she, if she was going to come off the bench a little bit, being maybe their 4th, 5th, even 6th best player at this point in time?
Yeah, that is a very good question. She hadn't come off the bench in years, and quite honestly, she hadn't played well for the Fever throughout her first few games with the franchise, only few games with the franchise. And I know Lexi Hull took her starting spot, early on, and I don't think anybody here in Indiana would disagree with that. I don't think anybody in the WNBA would disagree with that, because Lexi Hull has been a better player.
She goes on the court and she makes some things happen. She's diving all over the floor. She hits big threes sometimes. I mean, her shooting has been really important.
Yep.
I think to keep some pressure off of the interior part of that lane too sometimes. And so there's a lot to unpack there. Also wanted to point out before we head on, it's the end for Bojan Bogdanovic.
Former Pacer.
Yeah, I always enjoyed watching him play the brief time that he was here, and I know he was part of a trade that sent him elsewhere, and he played, I think, for 5 teams before it was all said and done. Detroit, the Knicks. Anyway, I always liked watching him play, and he's decided that after a bunch of injuries and trying to come back, it's just time to hang it up. So
I respect it.
Yeah, I respect him too. All right, coming up in just a minute, we'll get more into the Indiana Fever, and also a huge signing in the NBA. What does it mean for the future of the league? So we talk about it next on 93.5. I was going to say 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan. Getting ahead of myself, Mark Dykton. Happy Monday, and if you're slogging yourself to work today, good luck with that. If you're heading out on vacation, which I've talked to a lot of people that are, this is the week, this week, next week, right around the 4th. People like to take before or after. Are you a before the 4th or after the 4th if you're taking the 4th or maybe the 3rd off too?
Anybody who is taking the before the 4th, this year is a little bit different because it's a Friday.
Right.
It usually falls in the middle of the week, and I am always an after the 4th guy. Before the 4th, yuck.
Here's what you do: you take the 4th off because everybody's off work
He's
anyway.
He's the veteran here, by the
So
way.
you get the long
time off.
weekend. Then you take a couple vacation days the next week, and then that way you're going back to work and you have a short week. Like you always do it that way. Take the short work week both weeks, double up.
I think
That
we've
way.
seen that.
Yeah, that's exactly how you do it. Because otherwise, who wants to come back from work and work a full week right out of the gate? Nobody wants to do that.
I've seen a lot of people that will take their PTO on any kind of a long weekend the day before and then the day after that, and then you get almost a full week, and you've only taken 2 days off.
If you truly got a lot of PTO,
Yeah.
you take the next 4 days off. You come back, do one work day, and then you got another weekend to look forward to.
You writing this down, JB?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm passing along
this
the knowledge
is literally
of the crew.
all the gold nuggets that Mark has racked up throughout the years. His wisdom is unmatched.
Unmatched. Hey, by the way, we want to hang out with you, and we would love to do that in August. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. We are going to be hosting the Fan Invitational Golf Outing. I'll be out there. KB is going to be out there. Jake, JMV, James, you're going to be out there too, or are you going to be up at Colts camp that day, the 7th?
No, I will literally be in Baltimore for a preseason game.
Oh, that's right. They were playing the Ravens that night. Well, we'll think about you. Maybe we'll FaceTime you from the tee somewhere.
Feel free. I'll show you my swing.
There we go. Anyway, you can hang out and talk with all of us. We're going to be doing some stuff on different holes and playing with everybody a little bit. It's for a great cause, though, and that's the point. It's not just about golf. It's a great chance to get together as a community. We're supporting the Franciscan Foundation, which is making a big impact on what they do out there, and we're going to have a great day on the course with you. So it doesn't matter if you're a seasoned golfer, you're just simply being outdoors, you're a hack like me. The outing promises a lot of fun, a lot of camaraderie, a chance to just hang out with us and for us to meet with you as well. It'll be Thursday, August the 7th. Shotgun start at 10 a.m. One of my favorite places to play, the Legends Golf Club. Get your clubs ready and join us for a very memorable event. Don't miss the chance to make a difference with every swing. We'll be telling you about it a lot over the next week or so. But again, August the 7th, mark that day off. You want your PTO? How about that? You can take maybe you can do that. That'll be the start of a 4-day weekend for you there.
Yeah,
take Thursday and Friday off.
Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, you take Thursday off, watch the Colts on TV Thursday night.
And enjoy the golf outing.
Yeah, enjoy the golf outing, then enjoy Friday, and then you have the weekend. So there you go. That might be a way to go as well.
Kevin hasn't committed to this, by the way, but he's got, 2 Speedos now in his closet? He's not used either of them. I said at the golf outing, on the longest drive, whichever hole that would be, he busts that thing out and runs to the tee. He just run to the flag.
Well, we don't need that.
Let us know where the longest drive is, Kevin. Get on out there.
Why are you in such a hurry to see him in a Speedo?
I'm not, but I would like to see public humiliation.
Okay,
and
that's what he looks for.
He's done it to himself. Bust the bad boys out and get a running.
Well, there we go. Camp does start on the 23rd for the Colts. We'll tell you all about that coming up in a minute. Some NBA stuff that you and I were talking about during the break here. Pacers made a couple of moves over the past weekend. JB, what does it look like they're doing? It looks like they're kind of trying to keep everybody intact and try to get through next year and see what they can do until Tyrese gets back, right?
For the most part, early on, the biggest domino will be whatever they do with Miles Turner, which I would assume they bring him back, but they did pick up the player option for Tony Bradley. They extended, restricted free agent qualifying offers to Isaiah Jackson, Quentin Jackson, and I believe Enrique Freeman. So if you're looking at big men so far, they have a chance to retain not only Tony Bradley, but also Isaiah Jackson, as long as I believe his 1-year qualifying offer is like $6 million. So unless some other team wants to pay him more than that, he will return and be back in a Pacers uniform. A bit of a surprising development for me because they chose him over James Wiseman. Now, I do believe that Isaiah Jackson is probably the better player and more upside there. He is your former first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, they're both coming off that severe, pretty significant injury when it comes to the Achilles. And the Pacers decided, hey, we'll pony up and pay for you anyways because we believe in you that much. So I think that's something that we have to keep an eye on as well. And as we talked about during the break, DeAndre Ayton is going to be a free agent when he clears waivers. Could his next stop be in Indianapolis?
And what do you think of the second-round draft picks that the Pacers made?
Oh, I just brought up DeAndre Ayton, and we're bringing up second-round draft picks.
It's just I'm wondering, look, nobody thinks they're going to turn the team around or anything like that, but I think they picked up 2 guys that have a chance, I think, if at the very least be two-way players and maybe make a contribution.
Yeah, no, the transition there, I was like, all right, I got to lock in and think about the other players that they drafted.
I want to deal with our guys first until we get to DeAndre.
Okay, well, I mean, they've heard my voice on this. What do you think about those guys? I mean, I personally think they were two pretty solid pickups for where they were in the draft, and Cam Jones in particular being the higher pick, the number 38 pick, which they traded to acquire. Mm-hmm. I think he'll be somebody who probably plays right away. I mean, played 4 years in college, experienced player. He kind of reminds me, not play style wise, but experience wise, of Andrew Nembhard. And usually the older players, when you get them, the expectation is they're going to play. I mean, there's not a lot of development left usually for those guys. He can get better, of course, but I think that he's someone who can, offer you some size at the point guard position. I think he's 6'4", some scoring ability, and then he is a pretty solid on-ball defender as well, which, again, if you can play on-ball defense, the Pacers probably circle you in red on their big board.
Yeah, and the kid they took later on, Talon Peter, this to me is the ultimate second-round pick. You pick a kid who's really athletic with a lot of upside that shot the ball very well the last time we saw him in college, and who knows, maybe he becomes a two-way player. Maybe you put him down and see if he develops, but why not? To me, that's what you do at that spot.
I mean, yeah, Talon can shoot it. He can really shoot the basketball, and shooting will always be a premium in the NBA. So if you can do that very well, you can certainly turn some heads. So it should be a fun and exciting Summer League team. And the crazy part, I believe Summer League is starting up literally in next month. I know today is the last day of June, but yeah, Summer League will be here before we know it. And that's how it goes when you go to the last day of the literal NBA season. You get a very short off season, and you're right back at it for the following season. So I'm excited to see him. Like I said, I'm excited to see Cam Jones and excited to see just the rest of the younger players get some reps. Like Johnny Furphy, I would expect to be in Summer League and things like that.
Yeah. Now, we can bring up DeAndre Ayton now, who is going to be on the market. He's a center. He's about a 16-10 guy for most of his career, 16-9, somewhere around there. And I would say no, and no. My biggest problem is the deeper he's gotten into his career, the less time he spends on the court. And I don't know if you're the Pacers and where you are right now, if you can afford to do something like take a chance on a guy who you're hoping he'll be fully healthy for the first time in 3 seasons.
That is a good point. I just want to know, what's the number? What is he looking for? Because it's crazy thing that I was a little surprised he got bought out by Portland, because Portland was just like, we just want the roster spot. We don't even want you anymore. And because of that, what would he cost? If he's cheaper than expected, would he be somebody you would consider bringing in to help you out in addition to retaining Miles?
Well, what's
do you have
cheaper
the money for that? I mean, I forget what contract he was on. I mean, he was on a huge contract.
Yeah, he was making a lot of money. So I don't know how much of a step backwards he's going to take or wants to take.
Let's see what his contract was at, because I'm saying if it's less than $10 million a year, let's look and see.
You think you can get DeAndre Ayton for less than $10 million a year at this point?
If he gets bought out by the Portland Trailblazers, who stink and they don't want you, yes, I think that there is a possibility that he could go somewhere for $10 million a year or less. Now that's my number. Now, if he wants more than that, someone's willing to pay him more than that, feel free. But I mean,
to make $35.5 million.
Yeah. See that's
a no.
And they bought him out, so you don't have to pay that. You can choose whatever you want. He's not going to get $35 million from anybody. And since he signed his max contract, he really hasn't been living up to that. So I would say if the number is 10 or less, I would at least inquire about it. He is a guy who's averaged 10 rebounds for his career. I know people, complain about the Pacers' lack of rebounding and Miles Turner. That is a weakness of his game. So is, someone like DeAndre Ayton someone you would try to bring in? Now, the downside to it is obviously the Tyrese Halliburton injury. If you bring in DeAndre Ayton, you would hope it's not just for 1 year. You'd want him to be able to play with Tyrese Halliburton, which throws a wrench in the plans, but that is a name that, just piqued my interest because a few years ago, as we all know, the Pacers extended him, I believe it was like a restricted free agent, like max offer.
Yep.
And he was going to be their center of the future until the Phoenix Suns matched it, and he got his money and stayed in, Phoenix. But I thought that was just an interesting name to hear.
That was a much different DeAndre Ayton, too, than what I've seen the last 2 years.
Well, he's playing with Chris Paul, and Chris Paul made him look a lot better. So, again, the Tyrese Halliburton injury changes things, but just throwing it out there.
We also found out that LeBron James is ready to play in a record 23rd NBA season. Does that force the Lakers into just being NBA purgatory at this point in time? I can't imagine there's going to be enough around him that they can truly make a run in that Western Conference.
So here's my question. People say that, like, why do not just you, but like people in general, why do people think that him opting into his deal will restrict them or should restrict them?
What are they going to do? They couldn't compete with the best teams in the West as it was. They're not going to be able to significantly upgrade that roster in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and I guess my question is, like, what – we don't have to talk about LeBron very long here, but I'm just very curious, like, he's a top 10 player in the NBA still. So when I hear people say, oh, he should take a pay cut, for what? I am better than almost 99% of the NBA still. Why would I take a pay cut?
He's going to make $53 million, so he's not.
I know, and the people are like, "Well, you should take a pay cut, do it for the team." For what? What have they done to prove to him that I should take a pay cut?
Because it's not my $53 million to give away.
I'm like, nah. And trust me, I love all these great players, and I truly believe this. When Tyrese Halliburton gets back and he's healthy, and he gets his second big contract in the NBA, we will not be sitting here asking him. At least I won't be saying, "Hey, you should take a pay cut." No. Teams pay their stars the max, and they figure out how to win around them often.
Yeah. And what he did is just exercise his option is what he did.
Yeah. So people complaining about it. I'm like, hey, that's in his contract. So we'll see how it shakes out.
I'm LeBron. I'm looking around that Lakers arena. I'm like, if I'm not here, how many fans are in this building right now? Probably not too many.
He has done the yearly, this team probably isn't good enough. What's my future? That sort of thing. But, hey, when you are the face of the league, about to play in your, league record 23rd season.
23rd, yeah.
That's how it goes. But for these parts, I'm just looking at, waiting to hear a little bit more on Tyrese and how he's going. I see he's got a bell. His girlfriend, Jade, posted he has a bell now, so he can, ring the bell whenever he needs assistance. I thought that was a little funny. He seems to have some humor still there. I know there'll be some tough days, but it was good to see him at least in good spirits, having fun with that. And I saw he had his dog, Ames. He was saying he's like the good doctor dog, and he's helping him out around the house a little bit. So, feeling for my guy Tyrese. That was one of the questions I got a lot too, Jeff, when I was even back home was, how's Tyrese? How's he doing? Those types of things.
Yeah, we certainly wish the best for him, and just a remarkable, full, and healthy recovery. And whatever the timetable is, the timetable is. I think sometimes we get too caught up into how soon is he coming back. We all know that he's not going to be back for next year at all. And in a sense, you never want to have that injury, obviously. But I guess if you have to have it, late in the season like that, you almost get a built-in couple of months extra to recover when it finally comes back around, instead of trying to rush back for a playoff run or something like that, right?
Yep, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, so anyway,
I've heard some people say if they are in a playoff hunt next year and he can come back, they want him to do that. I'm like, why would you want that at all?
No.
Wouldn't you want him to have the full summer off?
As a fan, you're probably like, I just want to see the guy as soon as possible, but realistically, and in the real world, he will not play a second next year.
But the last thing I want him to do
I'm breaking news here. This is, common sense.
The last thing I want him to do is to be out most of the regular season, then the playoffs rev up, and let's say you're just a 6 or 7 seed or something like that. I don't want him getting his first reps on the court to be in playoff basketball. I want those games to be less meaningful, like the start of the following season. Oh, you're playing the Grizzlies on a Friday? Okay, it's not a big deal. It's not the first round of the playoffs or something like that.
Right.
I'd much rather have the pressure be off of him. Give him the whole summer to ramp up and then come back the following season.
And the good news is you look at somebody like Kevin Durant, who's made a remarkable comeback even later in his career from an Achilles injury, and he can still score with the best of them.
Yeah, and he took like a year and a half off.
Yeah.
He missed the entire season after he tore his Achilles in the finals. And I believe the year when he did come back, he played maybe like 35 games, something like that. So they took the very long route.
And it's worked
to make
out.
sure he was okay. And like you said, Jeff, since then you haven't had any, he's gotten older. He's got more dinged up because of age, but he's still been a very, very high level and elite player.
Yeah, and then you look at what the Achilles injury has meant to like the Boston Celtics. They're blowing the whole thing up and almost starting over, knowing that he's not going to be there or available at all next year, and they're just starting to remake the roster for when he does come back.
Exactly.
So those things have a huge, far-reaching effect, no question about that. It's Fan Morning Show. KBJB, Jeff, and Mark Dykton in this morning. Good to see you again, Mark. Always good to see you.
Thank you. I feel like I should have a cot set up at this point with how much time I was in this studio.
You were like 6 consecutive days or something, weren't you?
Yeah, I was pulling like the JMV thing. Yeah. I saw JMV Saturday night after the show. He's like, what are you doing here? He's like, all right, the takeover. I'm like, you don't ever leave. He has to have a secret room in this building.
I feel
I'm
like
convinced.
JMV has two loves, and that is Indiana sports radio and playing basketball.
Yes, those are the two
Well, and
things.
his family. I guess I'll throw three in there.
And
but
honestly,
I don't know
think
what order some days.
if he was honest, like if we had the we had him
serum?
tied up in a dark room with a light on him and the truth serum
boy.
in there.
Whoa.
I think
I'll just give him the truth serum.
I think he would probably say, I think his favorite show to do of the entire week is the JMV Takeover on Saturday nights. I mean, he loves his show Monday through Friday here on the Fan, but I'm pretty sure deep down that Saturday night show is his jam. That's
His
what he
past
likes
life
doing,
was
man.
80s DJ, I'm convinced.
Oh, my gosh. I do have a question, though.
Yeah.
And I want to throw this out there.
Yeah.
So when I was reading through The Athletic, John Hollinger, who's one of our free agency guys, he used to be a front office guy with the Grizzlies, actually. He's worked in
He's
the
also
NBA.
just a really smart guy.
Yeah, and so he listed Miles Turner as his top free agent center. However, he said that the negotiations could potentially get contentious because of the way things are kind of shaking out. Like the Pacers are the only team that could pay Miles Turner theoretically, but Miles will probably want a certain number. So
Let's start with a 3.
what is a fair number to retain Miles Turner for a year's salary? Like if he says I want 35, are you saying no?
Well, here's the problem. We've seen
He says 30?
We've seen lesser and less accomplished guys in the last 2-3 years that have made $27 to $30 million a year. So the market has kind of been set, JB.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what is the number that would be the contentious mark? Like if I say, hey, Miles, if you want to come back for $27 million a year for the next 3 years, would he take it or would he say I need 30? Or if and I guess any good negotiation, if you throw a number out there, he should go higher. Everyone should. If your life advice, getting contract situations, always ask for a little bit more than they initially offer you. But how do you feel about that, guys? I mean, I don't, because in my mind, I'm thinking it's not my money. You can go into luxury tax and pay the guy, and I believe you have to go into luxury tax anyway, no matter what you really pay him. So I'm looking at some of the YouTube comments. And they're like, man, if it's 3 years, $75 million, $25 million a year, that's too much. And I'm like, is it?
Nas Reed on Minnesota just got 5 years, 125. Like, Miles Turner is way better than Nas Reed.
No. Do you think that? Oh, I don't know.
I do think
he's.
I don't know.
Look, I've watched Miles.
I don't hate that, though. I don't hate that opinion.
I've watched Miles his entire career here. And especially the first 4 or 5 years, I was like everybody else, like, man, how's a guy that big not getting more rebounds? How's this going on? But when you look at the way that Rick Carlisle has built this team, the way that Kevin Pritchard, Chad Buchanan, the three of them have built this team and the way it works, he's kind of perfect for what they do.
Yeah.
He is a good
that's
rim
fair.
protector. He gets relatively up and down the floor and labors a little bit sometimes, but he's great from three-point range. He opens things up offensively because of the way they like to space things, the things that they like to do. That pulls him away from the basket a little bit sometimes. That's why he doesn't get all those rebounds. But think about this. You were just talking about Nas Reed. Jared Allen just extended with the Cavs on a deal that'll start at $30 million a year. We just saw Isaiah Hartenstein in the finals. He's making $28.5 million. Nick Claxton re-signed with the Nets. He's going to make $25 million, or made the $25 million this past season. So 30 is probably right around 30, 32 is probably right around where Miles' market value is, I would say.
I say Miles Turner's looking around, and he's seeing these guys get deals. And he's like, okay, I put in 10 years on this team. What other options do they have right now? I'm trying to get mine if I'm my Miles Turner. If I'm their best option,
Yeah.
are the Pacers going to really tell you no? Rick Carlisle was on these airwaves last week and said he fits everything we're trying to do. So stylistically, he fits everything Rick and the coaching staff are trying to do from an offensive and defensive standpoint. The leverage is kind of in Miles Turner's court.
And two things here, too. First of all, the market value is just what it is. The market has been set by those guys that I just started talking about. Okay,
Mark made a good point bringing up Nas Reed.
Right. And the other part of it is, if you don't sign Miles, then what? What are you going to do?
That's my other thing. I feel like people are always like, man, he played so bad in the finals. He's not worth this money. Yeah, but your alternatives are not having him and being a much worse team. Now, I know his finals were bad, but you do not get to the finals without Miles Turner. That's the part people keep leaving out, in my opinion. So I think it's an interesting conversation, interesting debate, and I am curious to see what the number eventually ends up being I'll say when, because I do think that Miles Turner will return and play for the Pacers. When he returns, what is his salary?
Yeah, and remember they got a little bit more money to play with because of an injury exception with Tyrese.
See,
this coming
that's
year.
not 100% accurate,
well,
so to speak.
You can't. Yes, it's
because you
very
have
complicated.
to apply for it.
It's very complicated,
and there's no guarantee you get it. And I believe, like reading some stuff myself, they may not be eligible for that because Tyrese's injury happened in the 2024-25 season versus the 2025-26 season. So it's almost like you needed him to have, not needed, I don't say that, but like you would have to have him get hurt in the calendar year in which you want the exception, if I understand that correctly. So yeah, but it's not like a guaranteed. I think you can lobby for it and try to make an argument for it. So that I think is just a separate conversation.
I think it would be a very strong argument when your franchise max player is not going to be available to you for an entire year.
Yeah, but we've seen players get lost for entire seasons. Like I don't believe, and I believe Kevin Durant actually entered free agency after the issue or the Achilles injury with Golden State, but I don't think the Nets ended up getting like a restricted player or injured player exception.
But didn't that have something to do with the fact that he did elect free agency? And it wasn't
no.
honestly,
Jeff, you read about this, it is
anymore.
not a guaranteed thing, and I say that just throwing it out there. People are reading about it. It's like it's not a guaranteed, man.
We can ask Tony East about that at 9 o'clock because he knows more about luxury tax and all those little rules that the NBA has when it comes to salaries. He joins us.
Here's
at
what
9.
you need to know about the system, the pay system in the NBA. Every team now, and has for a while, as we all know, I'm not breaking any news here, but you have a salary cap expert or a capologist whose job is literally like a college professor to read, understand, and know all of the subtleties of those things, which I've read it myself before. And you don't just read it once and go, okay, I get it. There's just a lot going on there, JB.
Oh, yeah.
A lot going on.
I went through it on the NFL side when I was trying to figure out the JT contract dispute a few years ago. And reading through the CBA for Jonathan Taylor, I was like, oh, man, like this is everything you can think of has been thought of by them. And it's a lot of it is jargon. And you got to, I was using a thesaurus often throughout that thing.
It's almost like law where different people have different interpretations of the way it's written, too.
Yeah.
You could have two general managers that have a completely different take on how things go.
Yep.
It's crazy.
There's many nights I stay awake looking in the ceiling and saying, what does an Exhibit 10 look like in the NBA?
Yeah, when you're not being, when you're not being jumped on from the top rope by a 5-year-old.
That's true.
That's how that works. All right, coming up in a minute, we'll turn our attention to training camp and the Colts. It's just a couple of weeks away. That's, I guess, the one thing about going deep into the NBA playoffs. You don't have to wait too long for the NFL to come back around. We'll talk about all of that next as we continue on a Monday morning. It's the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Along with James Boyd, I'm Jeff Rickard. KB is out on vacation today. He'll be back on Wednesday. Mark Dykton in after just holding the fort down for the last couple of days. You were doing Jake's show on Friday. You did IST over the weekend. You got all kinds of things going on.
I was Mr. Fan. That's what I was. I was holding the station together. If I was not here, this whole place would have gone down.
I think we all know that at this point.
Everybody's worst nightmare happened on Friday when James had to leave at 9:30. I had the run of the show for the last half hour. I'm like, this is the station's worst nightmare. This has just occurred. They've been trying to hold me back, and now I've got run of the whole thing. Kylan was terrified.
She's terrific, and she helps out quite a bit. Where were you at 9:30 on a Friday? Where did you have to skip out to? Yeah, you had to go do some other stuff.
Yeah, worked that high school tournament, like I said.
Yeah.
Yep, made it there. About 15 minutes before everything started off. So
you see any crazy talented kids?
Yeah. They had a kid there who played at Bolingbrook High School in Illinois, where I'm from, and he was on like the Team USA team forever for his age group, and he looked pretty good. And
what was his name? Do you remember?
I couldn't tell you. There were so many kids, and honestly, you know, when you start playing high major basketball in college, that's when I probably remember everyone's names because you know how it goes. He was legit good though. He was a great player, and honestly, I could look him up here in a little bit. But so we had games at this high school facility. It was 156 teams over the entire weekend. We had games from 12 p.m. Central Time to 10 p.m. Central Time Friday. And then Saturday, it was 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then yesterday, it was 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
I've always enjoyed those high school showcases. There's some great basketball. You see some really talented kids. It's just fun to watch kids playing ball because they love playing still at that point in time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're reminded of, at least for myself, it was just a good reminder of like, okay, where you came from, what still matters. And like I said, it's good to see all your, at least for me, all old teachers, coaches, things like that. Everyone's asking how you're doing, that sort of thing. So it was good.
All right, we'll talk about the Colts camp coming up in just a minute here. But a reminder, if you want to hang out with us on August the 7th, we're having a golf tournament in conjunction with all the fine folks at Franciscan Health. Thursday, August 7th at Legends Golf Club. Tee time of 10 a.m. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll all be there hanging out with you. JMV, Jake, Kevin is going to be out there as well. You're going to be in Baltimore for getting ready for the Colts game that night. Mark, you might even be out there making an appearance, huh?
Yeah,
now that you are the station.
Once the show ends, I'll head out there.
All right.
Tea times will happen. I'll go drink some beverages or something.
Yeah. And it's all to help out Franciscan Foundation. They make a huge impact in the community, and it's going to be a great day on the course as well. Find out more at 1075thefan.com. Thursday, August 7th, shotgun start at 10 a.m. Get the clubs ready and join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, 1075thefan.com. You get all the information there, and you can sign up as well. And those spots starting to go now that the Pacers are done with the playoffs. People are starting to think about what they're going to do with the rest of their summer. So those are starting to fill up. So get in and do that right now. In the meantime, the Indianapolis Colts do report on the 22nd, correct? That's when they start reporting. Is it 21st or 22nd they start reporting?
I believe report day is the 22nd, and then we'll meet with Chris Ballard, I believe, usually. Not for sure, but he usually meets with us, the media, the next day, the 23rd. So it might be 22nd, 23rd, but either way, it's 3 weeks away, more or less. We'll be out there at Grand Park, and I'll be with my bucket hat because it's going to be hot.
First practice, 23rd, I think it's going to start at 11 o'clock.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. And then a lot of 10 o'clock starts. There's only a couple of night practices this year, and they do have the one shared practice with the Green Bay Packers.
Yes, and now that'll be at home. We have the joint practice on the road with Baltimore. I'll make sure that, all the Packers line up to give Mark an autograph and a jersey. We'll treat you like, you're some kid who won like a lottery prize.
We'll get Jordan Love's autograph for you.
I said this over the weekend. You want Shane Steichen, you want your Colts hitting hard in that joint practice, you let me give the pregame speech when the Packers are lined up across the field. Those boys will never hit that hard ever again.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Until Aaron Rodgers comes in town. You give me the pregame speech when the Steelers are in town.
I'm sure Buckner and Nelson are needing to hear your pregame speech.
I'm going to have James' bucket hat on, and I'm going to be pacing around with my hands behind my back, and we're going to say, it'll be like Patton or something. George Patton delivering a speech.
Look, we all know that we're interested to see what's going to happen at the quarterback position. Anthony Richardson all of a sudden has a shoulder problem again. We don't know what that's all about. Daniel Jones has been signed. He's going to get a big leg up with a lot of reps at the very beginning of the year there. But past the quarterback position, what are you really looking forward to seeing up there, JB?
Tyler Warren in action is always curious to me because he is your number one pick. You want to see him look like a number one pick early on, and he's looked like that so far throughout the spring. But just going up against other teams when they do have the joint practices, what does that look like? Can he continue to keep up with what we've seen so far? In the other position battles, cornerback, they have so many bodies there. Javarius Ward is going to be an obvious starter because of his experience and his price tag, and Kenny Moore is another starter, but who's going to be the third starter of this group? Will it be Jalen Jones? Will it be Justin Wally, the draft pick? Will Juju Brents try to get back in the mix as well? Those are some names I'm looking at as far as position battles. And then also beyond that, A.D. Mitchell, I could say him, but he always looks pretty good throughout the spring. It's what can you do when it comes to the fall and game time and those sorts of things. And linebacker is another position I'm looking at just because is Zaire Franklin available to start camp? Is Jalen Carlisle available to start camp? If they're not, who are your guys you're looking at? And would that make you a little more inclined to go out and get some more depth? Because that's the one position where I'm like, man, they haven't really invested much in that position. And the only guy who's really played a ton of football, you can say for sure you can rely on, is Zaire Franklin. The other guys are still very, very unproven, or they've been career backups. So we'll see.
It's interesting you bring up Mitchell, because I am really fascinated to see that the entire group of wide receivers looks like. We know who Michael Pittman Jr. is, a tough guy, plays through about anything, can get tough catches and do those kinds of things. And Alec Pierce has certainly been a guy that you've been able to target downfield. As a group, though, if Mitchell can come through and be what we think he can be, you throw out Josh Downs into the mix there too, and even Ashton Doolin on the tail end of that group. If Mitchell can come close to the potential that we see in him, that could be a really talented wide receiver group that I think can help whoever the quarterback is a ton, along with Tyler Warren.
Yep, and as you say that, I'm thinking to myself, it all comes back to quarterback. I know we want to talk about other positions, but I will be writing a lot about how that thing unfolds. And like I said, if Anthony Richardson, I think that's a really big storyline that'll certainly get a lot of attention, is just what type of ground can he gain in this quarterback position, and can he do enough to potentially put himself back in position to start in week one? Because if you're asking me right now, today on June 30th, I'm going to tell you Daniel Jones is QB1. And does that remain the same August 30th, and when you're going into the season in September? So we will see, and I think that Anthony cannot have any more setbacks, slip-ups, whatever you want to call it, going forward. He has to be out there. Otherwise, by default, he's going to lose his quarterback competition.
And look, we've been talking a lot about the linebacking position as well. You don't need a ton of linebackers in the Anarumo system, but right now, Jalen Carlisle and Zaire Franklin, both coming back from injury and both have a lot to prove, and those are your starters right now.
Yeah, Zaire's coming off a second-team All-Pro selection. He is a proven player. I know people, haven't always been, at least this past season, he put his foot in his mouth with the podcast and things like that, but he is still a better linebacker than most teams have. It's the other pieces around him. Now, you wanted probably a more rangy linebacker, someone who could, work in coverage and space. Jalen Carlisle, in theory, provides that, but he hasn't played a ton of games, so you cannot rely on him or say you can rely on him, but you can't say definitively this is the player he's going to be. You haven't seen it yet. You haven't seen it for a full season. So we will certainly have to see how the rest of the roster shakes out. And like I said, if what they see throughout camp kind of, puts that bug in their ear to say, hey, maybe we should reinforce this position more, because as we know, every time you go into a season with a glaring hole or a glaring need at one position, it comes back to bite you, and it has come back to bite the Colts in years past.
Defensive line, Kwity Paye, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Latu's got to make a step forward. And then the reserves, you're talking about guys that I don't want to see a ton of time from some of those guys, but just the starting four there along that front defensive front. What are you thinking there?
I think Latu has to make a big leap this year. I think that he's the player that, considering that Dadio Odangbo walked in free agency and joined the Bears, and he played the most snaps of anybody on your defensive line last year, Latu's got to be a star. He's got to be a dude. And if he isn't, I think that's going to really affect their ability to get to the quarterback, their ability to, play the defense that Lou Anarumo wants to play. Because if you look at when his defenses were at their best in Cincinnati, yes, he had, great secondaries and things like that, but he also had Trey Hendrickson making life miserable for other quarterbacks.
It never hurts when you have a guy wrecking everything on the edge.
You need that. And I think that, DeForest Buckner, has often been that guy. But if you can be that guy on the edge, as we know, you're usually a more disruptive player. So Latu's got to make a big jump. He's got the hair to, think that he can do something this year. He's got the leopard print hair.
He looks the part. He's
got the Dennis Rodman look. And if you can be as crazy and energized and, just relentless as Dennis Rodman, then maybe good things will happen for you this year.
Yeah, we talk about camp starting on the 23rd, too. When you have a new coordinator coming in, I know they had a lot of time to work on things in the spring here and the OTAs and mini camps and stuff like that. But I like Anarumo. He had a couple of, by his standards, some down years at the end there in Cincinnati. It's a really, really crucial part of camp to get those guys. First of all, we're talking about all the question marks that they have there. Who's going to be the third cornerback? How are things going to shake out, especially with depth? My biggest fear on defense right now, I'm not going to lie to you, is just depth. And you got to have depth to be successful in the NFL. You've got to have depth. I say all the time, one of the greatest ways to improve your team in the NFL is sometimes improving from the bottom of the roster up. And if you can't always go and take a big swing on a big free agent or you haven't hit on a huge draft pick, you can do a lot in the NFL if your second-line guys are just solid, legit NFL players that do the things they're supposed to do, JB.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit it right on the head there, Jeff. I mean, often we talk about these things, I'm like, it doesn't take a genius to figure out a lot of this stuff, but we see it so many teams kind of, mess up and maybe not address it as they should. So I'm excited about it. And I will say real quick for those listening, and I'm sure I'll say it again throughout the summer, training camp is a fun time to kind of connect with all of you, the listeners. I know we'll have some live shows out there ourselves. And then I think that's the number one time of the year when I connect with the most fans of the Colts or the Pacers or whoever, because you see them out in person. And so walking into Grand Park every morning, that'll be a fun time to connect. So if you do see me, say what's up and say what's up to the show.
Yeah, I always love that. Some NFL news over the weekend, too. The NFL said they're going to suspend Justin Tucker 10 games if and when he gets signed by another team. And I'm just curious, the last couple of years that he had and his age at the age of 36 and the distraction that he might bring to a team, are you going to sign somebody like Justin Tucker and then you got to put him straight on the shelf for 10 weeks? Aren't you telling the kicker that you do start off with, hey, love you, but 10 weeks from now you're going to be gone? And what are you going to get with a 36-year-old Justin Tucker, who quite frankly was not that great with the Ravens the last time we saw him?
Well, he can serve his suspension while he's a free agent. That's my understanding, correct? Because he is a free agent when the suspension is handed down.
Originally, I understood that he couldn't. Now, I heard this morning that's possible that he could. Can you serve a suspension when you're not even in the league? How does that work?
I'm not sure how that works at all, to be honest with you. That's a good question.
My understanding is because the suspension happened while he was a free agent, he was not a member of the team. The 10-week suspension can be served while he's a free agent, which means he can sign with the team and he could participate in training camp, but then he will serve that 10-week suspension. Or he could be unsigned and serve the 10 weeks and then come back, whatever it is, mid-November.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
And go that way.
I heard that, but it doesn't seem to jive with the way they've done things in the past.
Yeah, bottom line is, I mean, this is as real as I can get on this show. If he were a better player, it would be a conversation. He wasn't a good player. So, therefore, people will not sign him.
If he was the Justin Tucker of old, yeah. Now his skills have diminished, and now you've got that baggage.
Exactly.
Maybe there'll be a desperate team in mid-November that a kicker goes down and like, should we pull the PR? Like, it'll be a PR nightmare, but should we sign this guy?
Yep.
Well,
I'm just wondering if the juice is worth the squeeze at that point.
Yeah, well, what do you do if it's November and you're making a run and you think you have all the pieces and you do have a kicker that, I don't know, tears a groin or does whatever kickers do sometimes to get hurt? Then what do you do?
Me personally, I still don't pick Justin Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, that is, you are going to take
We're good with Spencer Schrader and Maddox Trujillo, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Colts, that's another position battle for just getting back to the Colts topic. Mm-hmm. I think that's certainly a position battle I'll be looking at myself because, you cut Matt Gay. Matt Gay did have some struggles last year, but he did not miss inside of 50, whereas Spencer Schrader was 5 for 5 last year during his rookie year in the NFL, but that's a very small sample size, and he did not kick beyond 50. So you're taking a really big gamble, I think. And I'm not saying Matt Gay should have stayed at the price tag he was at, but I do think it's a gamble to roll the dice on Spencer Schrader, who is number one, I guess, in the dugout right now, or number one on the depth chart when it comes to kickers. Maddox Trujillo should certainly challenge him this offseason. And Brian Mason said it is an open competition, although Spencer has a leg up because he signed a deal already and they're familiar with him and things like that. But that's not a foregone conclusion that he's just going to come in and be this seamless kicker. But like I said, for the purposes of whether I was running the Colts or any other team, I'm not picking up anybody that's old and has baggage and obviously has baggage to that degree and of that nature. So, no, I would not pick him up.
All right, that's what's happening as far as the Indianapolis Colts are concerned for this moment in time. Coming up in a minute, we'll talk a little bit more about the Pacers. Tony East going to join us at the top of the hour. Indiana Fever conversation. Now, I'll say one thing. The WNBA, which has garnered a lot of attention lately, is there a more interesting team in the league than the Indiana Fever?
I mean, the numbers would tell you Caitlin Clark makes everything interesting.
But, I mean, even beyond Caitlin, it's just been a very interesting team.
There's more interesting. There's teams on par that certainly have different storylines. Can the Lynx, avenge last season and win a championship? The Liberty, can they defend their championship? There's certainly some things going on around the rest of the league. But, I mean, every time I see videos of Caitlin Clark signing 1 million autographs, I'm just reminded of her star power. She is Michael Jordan. She is Tiger Woods. She is Taylor Swift when it comes to the attention she gets. And so from that aspect alone, they're by default probably the most interesting team in the WNBA. I mean, she just drew in a WNBA record, I believe 1.2 million votes to be an all-star starter. She's an all-star captain, by the way. I believe the other stars will be announced at a later date, but, I mean, that was a foregone conclusion. Caitlin Clark will be an all-star for the rest of her career.
Probably. And I think she's only one. She is certainly the center of that Fever universe. No question about that. All planets revolve around her. But there are still a lot of storylines even beyond her that the Fever are making news with. We'll tell you more about that coming up in just a minute. In the meantime, Mark, let's check it down. JB, speaking of the Indiana Fever, they won their last game out on the road at Dallas on Friday night, 94-86, improving their record to 8-8. When you consider the fact that Caitlin's missed 6 games now, how many games has she actually missed?
I believe she's missed 7.
7
overall. Yes.
All right, so she's missed 7 games. They're still 8-8. I'd say they're weathering the storm okay.
Yeah, and again, with the groin, you don't want that thing to linger. So I think it is certainly worth monitoring if she plays tomorrow, and if it's wise for her to play tomorrow. I honestly probably lean towards not playing tomorrow in the Commissioner's Cup Championship just to make sure she's good for the real, playoffs and potential championship down the line. You
mentioned the Commissioner's Cup. That'll be a championship game tomorrow night at Minnesota. It starts at 8 p.m. We'll have the fan pregame show with Eddie Garrison at 7:45. Then you'll be able to listen to John Nolan call the action right here on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. You can probably find a place to watch it on TV, too.
Yeah, I believe it's on Prime, Amazon Prime Video.
Tell you what, with all the sports they've been adding, I've never been so happy to be an Amazon Prime member over the last couple of years.
Shout out to my mom.
There you go.
That's the only reason I get to watch it. They order stuff. I don't know how much you guys use Amazon Prime.
A lot.
I am not an Amazon Prime guy. I don't order things very often, but I'm glad my sister and my mom do because I get to watch sports because of them.
I always wait till I get the 30-day free trial, then I sign up for that. Yeah.
All I know is I have what I call the magic porch. I don't know how it works. I don't know what goes on.
You and many others.
I just know every day when I come home, there is a package on my doorstep, and it's almost never for me.
There was a video, and this could have obviously been
usually for my kid. My wife buys a lot of stuff for the kids.
This could have been just for views, but I remember this was like around the holidays, and there was some guy coming home from work. He's like, "Look at this," and his front door is literally blocked with all the packages that came. He's like, "What is she buying? What is she buying?" I'm like, "That's insane."
The thing is, though, and I talk about this. I'm sure there's a million guys out there nodding their head right now. My wife she hardly ever goes shopping anymore. She just doesn't go. She just does it all online and then goes back to doing what she's doing.
God bless them, because my family, they're at least my mom and my sister, they're the the queen and princess of returns.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you got to make the returns at the UPS store, right?
I have reached the stage in my life where I no longer buy them gifts when it comes to birthdays and holidays, because you can go to the store with them, they could try it on, they could love it, and then 2 days later it's, hey, you still got the receipt for that, and can you take this back, and I need your card. And so I will never shop for them specifically again.
I dated a girl a long time ago, obviously before I met my wife. So this is probably, 30 years ago. I was dating a girl, nice girl, but her thing was she would go shopping and she'd see 5 or 6 things that she liked. And because they were either on sale or it was only, whatever she wanted, she would buy them and then decide over the next week whether she liked them. And she just constantly took 80% of the stuff back. And I don't get that. That's how it worked. I don't know how that goes.
That's why my wife loves Costco, because you can drink 8 drinks and you're like, I don't like this. There's 4 left. I'm returning this to get your full money back. Costco is, I don't know how they make money. They do it, but that return policy is wild.
All right, back to the check down. We've got a retirement. Former Pacer Bojan Bogdanovic has called it a career. He's been battling through some injuries for the last year and a half, and he said, sometimes your body makes the decision for you.
Yeah, he's a good player. I thought that he certainly could shoot the heck out of the basketball. And anytime you can play, I believe he played over a decade in the NBA. I want to say 15 or 16 years. You've done yourself very, very well. I mean, it's the best league in the world. To last that long is certainly no fluke.
Yeah. Other NBA news, DeAndre Ayton is set to become a free agent after his buyout with the Portland Trail Blazers. So he'll probably have some market, I would think, out there.
Is his next stop Indiana?
I hope not.
Jeff Rickard is not a big fan of the DeAndre
He's not going to be at the airport.
Yes, to Pacers pipeline.
I'm
just saying he's averaged 10 rebounds a game for his career.
But he's also
Pacers
not
need rebounding.
He's also not playing that much the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, he has. I think he's played 40 games the last couple of seasons, around 40. Yeah, 40 games this past year, 55 the year before that. He's never played more than 71 games in a season. So that is something to consider. But again, if the price is right, you take a flyer on him if you're Indiana.
Jabari Smith signing a $122 million extension with the Houston Rockets. And Ace Bailey finally spoke and said he is blessed to be with the Utah Jazz and that he just trusts his process.
I mean, money makes you do a lot of things. So when people say, hey, we'll pay you money to play basketball, you show up wherever that is.
Mark's favorite player, James Harden, has signed an $81.5 million deal with the Los Angeles Clippers.
I mean, James Harden has made a lot of money. I don't mind James Harden, but I mean, are the Clippers doing anything? I feel like they are just running it back and just old guys that aren't going to really get it done.
Look, if you're in the West, it's going to be tough because Oklahoma City's not going anywhere. As long as Jokic stays with the Nuggets, they're going to be a threat because they're just a tough out. The Minnesota Timberwolves aren't going anywhere. They're still getting better. And there's a couple of teams that seem to be on the rise. I don't know that I'd count the Clippers as one of them.
No. Definitely not on the rise. You're banking on James Harden and the crew of guys that I'm just like, I don't know. Yeah. I wouldn't do it.
All right. One other quick WNBA note. Did you see Angel Reese is on a tear? Have you seen that lately?
Man, he's starting to click.
15-plus rebounds in 4 straight games. I also saw she's taking advantage of the business of all this stuff. She has trademarked the term me-bounds and Reese-bounds.
I respect it.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well make money off it, right?
Yep.
All right, that's what's happening in basketball. Major League Baseball yesterday, Cincinnati Reds came up with a win over the San Diego Padres. Will Benson had a game-winning RBI single in the ninth. Ellie De La Cruz and Spencer Steer each had RBI singles. Xander Bogaerts had a solo home run. Also, St. Louis Cardinals shut out the Cleveland Indians by a score of 7-0 to complete a 3-game sweep. Matthew Liberatore, 6-6, 6 innings, no runs, 3 hits. That's about all you get anymore, 6-7 innings. That's a good outing these days.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking, I want to say maybe last week about the College World Series and how they had guys throwing over 100 pitches and things like that. That doesn't happen very often. Got to protect the arm. Back in the day, though, you just throw until it got dark outside.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen anymore.
Houston Astros shut out the Cubs.
Turning in his grave.
Right? Houston Astros shut out the Cubs by a score of 2-0, and I mention it because they won. The White Sox beat the Giants by a score of 5-2. Every once in a while, I'll give a shout-out to the Sox if they actually win a game.
That's why it's few and far between.
All right. Indianapolis Indians off today, but they are coming off a 3-2 win over the Omaha Storm Chasers. Yesterday, 3-2 the final score there. Later on today, Reds will play in Boston. St. Louis plays at Pittsburgh. It's a light schedule. And in NASCAR in Atlanta yesterday at the Quaker State 400, available at Walmart. Got to say the whole thing there, James. That's the title of the race.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Chase Elliott gets the win yesterday, and a lot of people's favorite driver. So a lot of people happy for that right there. Anything else you want to throw in?
I did find the name of that kid, by the way, I was telling you about.
Okay.
His name is Brady Pettigrew. He is ranked as the, I believe, what is it? The 15th player by ESPN in the class of 2028. And so he looked legit.
So what is he, 15, 16?
Yeah, very young kid. He's going to his sophomore year, I think, of high school.
Does he look 15, 16? Is he...
No, all those kids look like they were eating stuff that was not made
15 going on 20?
naturally. Yeah, all of those kids were, just huge. I was like, wow. Honestly, I think a lot of just resources a lot of these kids have nowadays, and a lot of these environments just create better athletes because, man, the way they were jumping and moving and everyone's just big. And honestly, I was thinking just about grocery bills when I saw those kids.
Yeah. Coming up in a moment, we'll talk more basketball. Pacers making a few moves over the weekend. Also, the Indiana Fever getting ready for the Commissioner's Cup Championship tomorrow night. I still think, for a lot of reasons, they're the most interesting team in the WNBA, and they're sitting there at 8-8 with a hobbled Caitlin Clark. So I think things are pointing up for that team. We'll talk about it all next as we continue the Fan Morning Show with James Boyd. I almost said James Bowen right there. I almost just made the two of you one guy.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, no, I didn't, though. You can't buzz me if I catch myself.
Well, you can't admit the mistake either. You got to just keep moving.
We're open here. We just keep doing these things. Anyway, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, Mark Dykton there, you can tell, always looking for an excuse to hammer any of us at any time. And we usually give him an excuse. Have you noticed that, JB?
I have.
Right.
There's going to be a file somewhere where, Mark can blackmail me, and I just accepted it a long time ago.
Well, maybe play the Ellie De La Cruz job.
Oh, Lord.
It's all coming up next. It's 93.5 and 107.5. Happy Monday. Hope your summer's going well. And some of you probably leaving on summer vacation right now. Or maybe you're just getting back. Either way, it's a lot of fun. I spent this is kind of fun. I spent the weekend, we hosted a young man, 14-year-old kid from Peru, as part of an international piano competition that kids from all over the world were coming to up at the Palladium. Got to hear some unbelievably talented kids playing a bunch of piano this past weekend. You're just like, it leaves you almost with your jaw on the floor. We always think about these great wonder kids we see in sports that do these amazing things. But, man, talent is talent, and when some kids have it, it's a lot of fun to watch. And it was also fun to have him come home and just hang out with my teenagers and just see him be just a regular 14-year-old kid at the same time. And it's just I enjoy any time I see excellence anywhere. It's just a lot of fun. I enjoy that.
Oh.
Can you yell requests at them? Like they're playing a song like, play Freebird! Stay away!
I'd imagine they could play about anything, some of these kids. It's crazy. But it was a lot of fun.
At them left and
You're
right.
more supportive than me because I spent my weekend any kid that I saw that was like bored at the game, I get out there and play them one-on-one and just dog them.
Was that you?
Just dog them.
Uh-huh.
Yep, you know.
Break their spirit.
Yep.
29 years old, just beating up on a 16-year-old.
Hey, no,
right?
It wasn't even a 16-year-old. It was like literal kids. Like the little brother of the guy playing who's like dying to get on the court. Hey, halftime comes, it's one-on-one time. But no, I enjoyed it. But I think you're making a good point there for sure.
James was Billy Madison throwing dodgeballs at children, basically.
I mean, more or less. You got to build them. You break them down while they're young. You make them tougher while they're older. It's very simple.
It's also fun. Like, I saw a couple like 9-year-olds, maybe 8-year-olds, and they're playing these incredibly difficult pieces of music, and you're just like, how, when, where, how does this work? And then you see them 10 minutes afterwards in the lobby just being 9-year-old kids running around, pushing each other down, playing tag, yelling at each other, stuff like it's incredible to see talent. It's just always fun to see kids that really have something special. So I enjoyed that, and I thought I'd give them a shout out too, because we were busy as always watching sports over the weekend. I did watch the Fever on Friday night. I find myself now that the NBA playoffs are over, I watch a lot more baseball now. Starting to watch a couple of innings of games that I may or may not even be interested in the teams all that much.
I've been watching a lot of highlights from the past season. I'm not going to lie.
You haven't moved on quite yet?
It's not that. I guess, yeah, a little bit of both. I have moved on. I haven't moved on, but I was just like, I feel like I forget what happened pre-playoffs. And some of the stuff before the playoffs was pretty crazy too. So just an overall crazy season. And actually, here's a weird Pacers connection. I saw Ray J. Dennis this weekend in Romeoville because he played at Oswego East, which is a high school in that might be the same conference. I might have changed by now since I graduated high school. But yeah, he was out there. Huh. So, you got all these kids in the gym and they have no idea. A lot of them had no idea who he is. And I was like thinking to myself, what if you just drop Ray J. Dennis on this court right now? Would he drop 60 on these kids? I mean, because he's not that big of tall of a player, but obviously extremely talented to get to the NBA. And he was there pretty much, all weekend hanging out. And it was really cool for the people who do recognize him. It was kind of a big moment for him. He was like, man, this guy was just in the finals with his team, and now he's coming back to see us. And so it was cool to connect with him because he was asking me, hey, why are you out here? I'm like, man, I'm from here. And so we made a little connection there. I never had a chance to tell him that throughout the season, but it was good to see him.
Also, you bring up that name, and one of the things I really respect and like, I've always respected and liked Rick Carlisle, but I love the fact that he acknowledged that it took all those guys to get them to where they had. I mean, we all think about that 8 or 9 rotational guys, but he got contributions from almost everybody at some point or another during the season. I think he pointed out, about 17 guys when it was all said and done?
Yep, exactly. And I think that's just the essence of the Pacers this past season. They truly were a team's team. I even saw a guy in a Hickory shirt. I gave him a compliment. He said he got it. He said, I said, I'm from Indiana. I live in Indianapolis now. And he said, I actually live there too. And he was telling me he had went to, the Hoosier Gym in Nicetown and bought it. And so I was like, wow, this is truly such a small world that he'd be wearing a Hickory shirt in Romeoville, Illinois, of all places. So, again, it was good to have a couple of those connections.
A lot of fun. As far as the Pacers are concerned, a few moves this past weekend. Tell everybody what's going on there.
Nothing too crazy. Obviously, the big news that everyone's kind of waiting on is what is Miles Turner's future? Is it with the Pacers? What's the number if he does sign? But until then, they picked up Tony Bradley's team option for next season. It's not guaranteed, so they still have flexibility there. Like if they sign another big man or want to go elsewhere, they don't have to keep him for the entire next season. But he is someone they intend on bringing back, at least for now. They extended a qualifying offer to restricted free agent Isaiah Jackson, Quentin Jackson, and Enrique Freeman as well. The latter two are more two-way players. Isaiah Jackson, I think, will be a rotation guy if he's healthy. So his contract is at about $6 million. So someone else has to match that or go past that to retain him or get him away from the Pacers. But the Pacers, willing to pay us $6 million for a player coming off an Achilles injury, that's not something to just kind of overlook. I think that speaks to their relationship with Isaiah Jackson, their belief in him to be healthy again. And so those are some of the bigger items that happened for the Pacers. No fireworks just yet. I know we saw some other fireworks throughout the league. Some of the bigger name stars, but the Pacers have been quiet so far in free agency, with the biggest domino yet to fall, and that is, again, Miles Turner.
Yeah, and we'll talk to Tony East about that coming up at the top of the hour. I mean, you mentioned a lot of the other big things going on in the NBA. For a lot of people, LeBron James coming back for an NBA record 23rd season at the small, paltry price of $50 million.
Must be nice. I should have worked on my jump shot.
Man.
I should have been 6'8", 260. But, sometimes God just gives people different gifts.
6'8", 260 with a jump shot and a drop step. That's what you need right there.
Hey, man. I mean, it's special stuff. I mean, even when I look at guys on the Pacers, I'm like, man, like, that guy is – like, I looked at Ray J. Dennis, for example, this past weekend, and I was like, this guy is really, really, really good at basketball, and he's one of the last guys on the bench. No disrespect to him, but it just speaks to the level of talent that you have to even, enter the NBA. So – making that kind of money, you've certainly earned it.
And I love the fact that both, Oklahoma City certainly has the league MVP, but I think both those teams in the NBA Finals have demonstrated that in today's world, you don't have to have a big three or just a big two and an almost big three, that if you have a couple of exceptional players and surround them with a bunch of really good players and you put them in the right system and you play to their strengths and they all fit into what you're trying to do, you can make it all the way to the NBA Finals.
So here's something interesting. I want to pivot a little bit. We got a little bit of fever positive news. Caitlin Clark is a team captain for the WNBA All-Star Game. She pulled in a record 1.2 million votes, which is just, she's, like I said, barring injury, she will be an All-Star every year of her career. It's honestly LeBron James-like or Michael Jordan-like, where it doesn't matter if she's, having an injury kind of plagued season so far. Votes-wise, fan-wise, she will get all of the votes still because she's such a big draw. But one thing I want to know, and I'm curious to see, they have to draft their rosters, and they have to do it live.
To the All-Star Game. Yeah.
Yes, to the All-Star Game. The other captain is Nafisia Collier from the Minnesota Lynx. So those two will have a chance to pick their teams. Caitlin says she's going to, try to get all of her teammates, but hey, could we see, Caitlin versus Aaliyah Boston in the All-Star Game, and how competitive would that be? So I do want to see how she goes about her GM hat. She was saying she's, excited about it. She wants to, be a GM, at least in this little setting here. And I'm curious to see what Caitlin Clark prioritizes as far as team building, and if Kevin Pritchard could take anything away from her as she does that throughout the offseason. I don't know. We'll see.
One of the things that I took away from Friday night's game, watching them play the Dallas Wings, and really all the teams they played over the last couple of games or so, it's fun. And I think Caitlin Clark will, and the Fever just being on TV all the time, even though Caitlin didn't play the other night, you get to see now a lot of these other teams. And I'll tell you what, rookie Paige Becker, she's the real deal. There was a good 5 or 6 minute stretch of that basketball game where I thought she was almost going to single-handedly bring them back and get over the hump against the Fever. Thank goodness that she didn't. But, man, there was about a 5 or 6 minute stretch. She was doing everything.
Yeah, she's having one of the best rookie seasons you'll probably ever see. And I say that with knowing that Caitlin Clark just last year had one of the best rookie seasons you ever see. So, as you can see, the league is in good hands, in my opinion.
All right, a lot of fun. We'll talk more about the NBA and the Indiana Pacers along with the Colts coming up in a minute. 9 o'clock, Tony East is going to stop by. And here's your favorite. Are you going to go fast fingers if I give away a 4-pack to go see the Indy 11 play Monterey Bay on Saturday, July 5th? Do you want fast fingers? You're going to make Mark work a little bit?
No. Fast fingers, like I said.
I worked enough this last weekend.
Yes. And we have to reward people that are first. If you're second, you're the first loser. That's how it goes in life.
Oh, man. All right. 239-1070, family 4-pack on the line. Give us a call right now. We'll tell you who gets the big prize package coming up in a minute. We'll talk more basketball next. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Mark, I thought it was against your personal code to even mention another NFC North team at any point in time, especially during a song like that.
Well, I didn't mention anything. That was Lizzo. That wasn't me.
Yeah, but you highlighted it there. That's all I'm saying.
Good song.
There we go. And
Gets people going at weddings.
Do we need to get to? Do we need to reserve a ticket for you for practice day to go see the Green Bay Packers when they're in town?
I mean, the boo gun will be out. I'll be booing them like crazy. Again, you want me out there, Shane Steichen? Tap me on the shoulder.
I believe August 14th is the joint practice with the Green Bay Packers up there at Westfield.
Packers suck.
Last day of training camp, too, because the Packers came to camp. We got to get out of here. We can't have the stench of the Packers still here. We got to break camp.
I hope I love something as much as you hate the Packers. That's my life goal right there. Because that is some consistency, Mark Dykton.
Oh, man.
30-plus years of hatred will do that to you.
Gotta love that. I'm just looking forward to seeing the Colts. And I hopefully, look, what are the chances that Daniel Jones could be with protection and a quality group of wide receivers? What are the chances he could be a decent quarterback? Seriously, I know Mark is over there just dying at even the thought of it right there.
I'm a big fan of protection.
But
for anyone asking.
you always have to take it somewhere.
What are you talking about? I'm talking about offensive line. What are you talking about?
And honestly, as a Bears fan, he's a huge fan of protection last year with his quarterback running for his life. But no, I think that the internal belief for the Colts is that, hey, Daniel Jones didn't just fail in New York because of Daniel Jones. It was a lot of the infrastructure around him and really a bad infrastructure. He did have a bad offensive line. He didn't have very many, targets. If you look at his wide receiver core last year, outside of Malik Neighbors, you probably can't name a lot of those guys. Now, I can because I had to cover the actual games. But if you ask the average fan or average, Indianapolis Colts person, hey, who was their wide receivers last year? You can't name them because they weren't very good, and they're certainly not household names.
They were making catches all down the field against the Colts, though, weren't they?
Well, that speaks, I think, to the level of porous defense the Colts played last year, which should be different under Lou Anarumo.
I hope so.
With the new defensive coordinator. But getting back to the quarterback situation, I think Daniel Jones is someone, and this is Shane Steichen's words, not mine. He's experienced. He has picked up the offense really well. They've spoken very highly of him so far, and I think that he kind of views this as an opportunity to say, hey, I came here to play. And so far, my plan is working out. Maybe not as quickly as I expected, but I came here because of two things. Anthony Richardson is not accurate, and he can't stay healthy. So whether one of them happens or both of them happens, I will get an opportunity to play. And if I get an opportunity to play, he's not getting this job back. I think that's what his mindset should be and is at the moment. Now, will Daniel Jones tell us that? No, but why else would he come here and turn down the same amount of money he could have had to stay in Minnesota and be a backup there?
And we also forget, I know he's starting to get towards the middle part of his career, but he is a pretty athletic dude. Like, he'll take off and run for 40, 50 yards if you're looking the wrong way.
Yeah, and exactly. And again, if he does that, doesn't turn the ball over, has a pretty good completion percentage, which he's had throughout his career, stays consistent, I think that he would, put himself in a prime position to get the starting quarterback job and stay the starting quarterback. Because the other thing with Anthony, beyond the injuries and the accuracy, his rookie year, I want to say Anthony might have been at 59% completion, whatever it was. It wasn't great, but it wasn't like horrible like it was last year. And on top of that, he didn't turn the ball over as much. Last year, he turned the ball over a lot. And that's the other thing. Like, if you're going to be inaccurate, that's one thing. But if you're going to turn the ball over at that rate, that makes it even harder for teams to, for a team to trust you and guide you and feel like they can trust you to be their guy at quarterback. So Anthony has a lot to prove, I think, throughout this training camp, a lot to show. And like I said, earlier throughout today's show, you cannot have any setbacks. Another setback, and all of us, I think, will be on board with saying, well, at that point, you got to roll with the guy who's healthy.
Well, not only that, but start to ask yourself, is he ever going to be healthy at some point, too? I mean, we were feeling good about all the reports. He'd been working out. He'd been working on his footwork. He'd been with a quarterback coach. He'd kind of had his own off-season training camp down in Florida. Nothing but glowing reports, right? Everything was good, and then all of a sudden, not going to be available.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
And, it's one of the oldest cliches in sports, but sometimes the greatest ability, if you're a talented guy, is availability, and he just hasn't been that available.
Yeah, part of me is like, is it a cliche or is it just true, man?
Well,
you gotta
most
be
cliches
out there.
happen because they are true.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I agree. We hear it all the time, but in Anthony's case, it is very much a reality. You got to be out there, dude, and you got to give people something to look forward to other than, oh man, this is happening again.
And I'm one of those guys. I'm always rooting for the young man too. I hope for his sake that he can get healthy and get it together. That in turn makes everything great for the Colts as well.
Yeah, it always makes you think of what the late Jim Irsay said. You know, the league moves on with or without you. So you got to be able to get out there and produce. And I believe this is a make or break season. I know when Carly Ursay Gordon met with the media for the first time after their father passed, she was saying, oh, we got to wait and see. Anthony's got all the potential. We drafted him to be a great player. He's still going to be a great player. That's all great, and she's supposed to say those things. But if he has another up and down season or a bad season like last year, where he's unavailable or he's inaccurate, it's going to be very, very hard to justify bringing him back. Or not necessarily bringing him back because he can stay on the roster, but like bringing him back as your starting quarterback, that to me would be a very hard argument to make.
You know, you talk about Jim Irsay saying that the league moves on. I mean, coaches, especially in the moment, move on because I've had so many coaches tell me, look, I want my guy back. I want him to get healthy. But right now, I don't have him, and I can't spend time as I get ready for this next game. I can't spend time worrying about him. He's with the training staff now. I only have to worry about the guys who are available to me, and I'll think about him when he is once again available to me.
I mean, it's as simple as that, Jeff. I couldn't agree more.
And it's not that personal against those guys. It's just a coach can't. I mean, he's not going to do himself any good if he's sitting up in his office worrying about what he does or doesn't have. He's just got to go with the guys that are in front of him.
Oh, 1,000%. It does make this preseason, beyond just training camp, the actual preseason games a lot more interesting, I'll say, because usually these guys play a quarter. Your top guy plays a quarter. He's sitting down. I think we could see both of them get some decent amount of time, which will cut into Jason Bean time. For the Jason Bean truthers out there who still want to see him cook up throughout the preseason, that may cut into his playing time because you got to figure out, seriously, who's your guy and what they look like with live reps because we can talk about it all day. And I think last year is a good example. Anthony was not like super erratic throughout training camp. He wasn't, turn the ball over a ton like he did throughout the regular season. Then when the real game started up, that's when you saw, man, maybe he didn't take that next step or at least get to that next level like we thought he did.
Yeah. He's James Boyd. I'm Jeff Rickard. Mark Dykton in for the, eighth day in a row? You took Sunday off, right?
Yeah, I was still downtown, though, because we went to the Indians game. So the commute was still the same. Got the streak going right now.
Did you almost come here based off muscle memory?
We did almost park here, but then I was like, oh, yeah, there's free street parking on Sunday. So
I was about to say, Addison's going to be looking at you like, Dad, where are we going?
Yeah. She actually wanted to park here. I'm like, that's a longer walk. What are we doing?
Wait till she starts driving.
Have you seen the temperature?
wait till she starts driving you, and James Boyd's like, hey, I'll take him out for a spin. I'll take her out
look,
for a
by
spin.
all means, go ahead.
Anybody who has a kid out here and needs driving lessons, I got 2 rules for you, children. Listen up. Remember where the brake is, and don't hit anything that's not moving. Very simple.
Or hit anything that is moving, by the way.
I mean, that's a little bit harder, but I'm like, hey, if you come to me and you say I hit something that wasn't moving, my dad always told me he would be like, James, I'll be very disappointed if you hit like a wall or a pole and it's not moving. Like that's something hard to live down. But I'll save my other parenting advice for later on throughout the show and perhaps throughout the week.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll talk to Tony East. Pacers making a couple of moves over the past weekend. Also have him comment on a few things I've been reading and hearing about the Pacers moving forward as we continue on the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And I have the good fortune this morning of working alongside James Boyd, fresh off watching an incredible high school basketball tournament up in your old stomping grounds over the weekend. That was a lot of fun. You love the hoop, don't you?
I do. And I heard the sneakers in my sleep, in my dreams, because I was in the gym so much. So while Mark Dykton was holding down the fort here, I was living and breathing Illinois high school basketball for a change.
Well, you might be looking at one or two future NBA players. You never know. In the meantime, we're talking about the NBA right now. The Indiana Pacers fresh off an NBA Finals appearance. And Tony East covered the whole thing and has been for a while for Locked On Hornet or Locked On Pacers and a couple of other things as well. Don't even go there, Mark Dykton, right now. But Tony joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline. See, you have a couple of days off. You spend some time in a different city. That's what happens to you, Tony.
I love Charlotte. I can make this work. I could talk about Yusuf Nurkic's trade. What else have they done recently?
I want to talk about Muggsy Bogues.
much.
If we're talking about the Hornets, let's talk about Muggsy Bogues.
Muggsy Bogues?
Talk about Knipple for us.
I think I've told you to your face, James. It always blows my mind when NBA players shorter than me are good. Muggsy Bogues is much shorter than me. I have no idea how he was that amazing.
He was a lot amazing, and then this season was amazing and so much fun just to watch from our perspective. And we were talking about the fact that it doesn't even feel like it's been a week since the whole thing has been over. Yeah. How's your come down been over the last 6-7 days?
It's kind of strange because the draft was so fast after it ended, right? I honestly kind of think the NBA needs to reschedule their calendar so there's more of a gap between the end of their season and this off-season stuff, because it was like 1 day, 2 days, and then they made a trade like on Tuesday to get a second-round pick, and then boom, there they go. There's the draft. Okay, here's other stuff. It's just it never really was like slowed down. There was always so much going on. So I wonder how much like internally it felt that way, where they didn't get a chance to like even process the emotions of Game 7. And then it's like, okay, here you go, off season, go on vacation. You'll be back soon for summer league. Like it's just it happened so fast.
Tony covers one NBA Finals now. He's complaining about the NBA schedule. You see how this goes?
No,
I'm joking.
No.
I do want to know this, and maybe you do have more information on this, Tony. On a more serious note, we were talking earlier about the disabled player exception, and do you know if the Pacers could apply for that in regards to Tyrese Halliburton, or how that all works?
Yes, they can apply for it. I think a lot of people have wondered if they could because the injury happened this season, but it'd be for next season. But like the Warriors, they got one with Klay Thompson when he got hurt in the 2019 finals the following year. They can apply for it if they think Halliburton's going to be out for the full season, which would be, I would be guessing, but that'd be my assumption, right? And so if they want to apply for it, they could get a salary cap exception to do so. The problem is that, as is the case in many things for the Pacers, at their level of spending right now, it'd be hard to use all of it and have it be a huge resource, but it's still something that they should try to get and use, because in theory it'd be a way for them to have $14 million to add it'd be more useful in trades potentially in the future, but a way for them to add a player and have some maneuverability if things go sideways in free agency.
Tony East joining us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. I was looking at ESPN.com this morning, and they were talking about all the things that every team can do to completely ace their offseason. I'll give you a nugget here and let you comment it on. Zach Cram said, every key player from the Pacers' finals run is set to return. We know that, with two exceptions. Pacers can't do anything about Tyrese Halliburton's absence, but they can ensure that Miles Turner is back by negotiating a new long-term deal for the free agent center. It's a must for the Pacers, who have no player depth at that position, and if Turner leaves, there will be no easy replacement available externally either. They're proposing a reasonable ask of 3 years, $80 million from the Pacers side, with Miles coming back for maybe $90 million considering the market right now. What do you think is likely to happen there?
And that's like kind of how my full season of thoughts have gone in that contract negotiation. I think that it's totally true that, it makes the most sense for Turner to be with the Pacers. It makes the most sense for the Pacers to want Turner, even beyond their past, their relationship, basketball fits, all that. Like, just financially, it makes so much sense for a reunion to be the case. And I think when the season started last year, I said out loud a few times 3 for 80 makes a lot of sense given kind of the market for centers. And then Turner was shooting 40% from three for like 60 or 70% of the season. And, was like he improved his defensive level in the regular season in like December, January, February when the team was playing well. and he stayed healthy this year. I think it's the second year in a row where he's played more often than he kind of has in the past. And I thought, okay, maybe this is going to hit like 90, maybe a little even more after he was way better than Brook Lopez and Jared Allen in the first 2 rounds. And then the last 2 rounds of the playoffs were not as special for him. The finals were very bad. He could not put the ball in the basket. And then I went back closer to 90, 80 range. So I think that given that there's probably not going to be another team offering him that much, the Pacers can kind of maybe not come out of the gate with that. But yes, I think between 3 for 80 and 3 for 90 makes the most sense. I mean, all the players of his similar skill level or similar impact level, those good starting centers who are not stars, your Jared Allens, Isaiah Hartenstein, Kristaps Porzingis, Nick Claxton, even although he's a little lower in that scale, that's about where they all are, and the salary cap's going to grow. So I think in that range makes the most sense and would be where I start negotiations as the Pacers.
So, Tony, I know you reported, I believe this might have been yesterday, that the Pacers issued qualifying offers to Isaiah Jackson, Quentin Jackson, and Enrique Freeman. We know that Quentin Jackson and Enrique were more like the end of the roster guys, two-way guys. But when it comes to Isaiah Jackson, he's someone that kind of, really that my ears kind of perked up when I saw that report. And were you a bit surprised by the Pacers' decision to essentially say, hey, we're willing to pay him $6 million and someone else can either, match that or go past that if they want him on their team, but just how quickly they came to that decision on Isaiah Jackson, who's coming off of an Achilles injury, and what could that mean for, I guess, how they view him in regards to their team-building aspects for the next season?
I was surprised. Like, the qualifying offer is technically an actual offer. Like, he could right now be like, yep, great, sounds good, 1 year, $6.4 million, let's do it. And coming off of an Achilles tear, you just never know what these guys are going to look like. And obviously the difference between my opinion and the Pacers is that they know how healthy he is, right? They've been able to see him move and run and exercise and all that, and they have a good sense of that, and they have a better sense of his free agency market than I would, because that'd be another reason they issued that, is they think he's going to make more than I do, or they think they should be willing to pay him more than I do. And if he's healthy by opening night next year, he is. The problem with discussions like this is it always sounds like I'm saying the player isn't good. Isaiah Jackson is good, right? Like, you should want to have Isaiah Jackson on your team, as that NBA team, including the Pacers. He's young, he's talented, he could jump out of the gym, and he's 6'11". Like, you want guys who are that athletic at that size. It's just very tricky to know what level of impact or availability you'll get from him coming off of a basically full season absence. He only played 5 games. So I wondered what his actual market value would be, and the center position has just a subdued market given the kind of quantity of players at it. So I didn't think that $6.4 million would be possible for him. And maybe still, that's one perk of restricted free agency, is he and the Pacers could negotiate something lower than that still. Like, if you have a good relationship with the player, it's easy to do that. But I did hear some surprise elsewhere after that happened yesterday from around the league. But I think they think that they'll be able to keep him, and I think the chance he's on the team next year went up with that move. But I was surprised. That is not something I expected.
Any cap relief coming for the Pacers with the injury to Tyrese Halliburton? We've been kind of confused on how that's going to work and what that might look like.
No, the disabled player exception that was asked about earlier is a way for them to potentially have another resource to add because they lost a player, but there's no actual cap relief. I think that's a good thing about the NBA, is that all their contracts are guaranteed for all their players. Almost always there are non-guaranteed deals, and that's great, but there's no actual way for them to clear actual salary money off of their books, which is tough given how expensive their team could be next year.
So what do they do? I mean, Tyrese obviously is going to be out for the entire year. They're going to have to find somebody somewhere to do something. What's most likely to happen here? Yeah,
it's tough because they are expensive, and their offseason was so straightforward until there was 40 minutes left in their season. But the thing is, they're still good, right? Like, they have an all-star in Siakam. The rest of their starting 5, if Turner stays, is good. They have, and the thing that helps with their current reality is they are still young, right? Like, they have 2 players in their rotation over 30. Everybody else is, at a reasonable age where you could see them getting better next year. And when you lose a season without a point guard, you have to kind of figure out that right balance of how much do you want to win, how much do you want to develop. But they're too talented with what they have right now to not win, at least somewhat, right? So I think they'll try to just kind of blend the two to the extent that they can, right? Win as many games as they can while also giving their young guys chances to explore the studio space a little bit on the court and get better, so that when Halliburton does come back 2 seasons from now, they're improved and they could do more things and be a better total team as that happens. Because coming off of an Achilles tear, like, it's very, very rare for a player to be, as good immediately, if ever. And so I think they need other guys to be better to kind of raise the tide of the whole team. And that's kind of what this season could be about. It's really going to be an interesting blend of how much the Pacers are willing to do that and how much they're willing to spend to have that happen. And maybe they're awesome and maybe some guys are better than we think, but I think that's kind of how they handle that. And so when it comes to spending in free agency, I think it's kind of focused on, with a guy like Turner, okay, great. He'll have enough years on his contract in theory that he'll be on the team when the Pacers have, Halliburton back. Okay. Everywhere else, I think you're looking for players who are either young and could be growing and could be good in the future when the Pacers are, more competitive again, or just 1 year kind of bridge from 1 year to the next kind of deals that help the Pacers accomplish both of those goals.
Tony, when you look at who they drafted, Cam Jones and Talon Peter, were you surprised at all that they went guard versus maybe guard big? And either way, what is your assessment or just early impressions of what you've seen from these guys from their college tape?
Yes, I wasn't sure if any position would be the most important to them. Like, I think it's very obvious why they would have picked a center. Honestly, picking a guard, especially one like Cam Jones, who had it in his hands all the time last year at Marquette, did make sense to me. Just with Halliburton out, like Nembhard and McConnell are the only table setters kind of on the team. Traditionally, they have other guys who can handle it. So I wondered after Halliburton's injury and before the draft if they would add a veteran point guard in free agency. And maybe they still will. Like, you can never have enough point guard depth, but if they have Ray J. Dennis on a two-way and Cam Jones and those two veterans, like, is that enough? Maybe they think that. I don't know. Regardless, it didn't shock me that they picked a guard, and I get why they like him. If you watch a Marquette game or two, you'll see immediately like, oh, this guy. Every time he dribbled across half court, Marquette set 7,000 ball screens for him and tried to get him, wiggling free to do something. He was a great scorer his last 3 years of college, but last year specifically, after Tyler Kolek got drafted by the Knicks, he had to pass more. His assist numbers went way up, and his turnover rate was still low, right? So he was asked to execute a lot of things that the Pacers do at a simple level, and Shaka Smart has some great sets there. So he can run offense, he can score, and he doesn't turn it over that much. Like, that's kind of a very Pacers-y player. That made a lot of sense when you look at him watching how he got his shots. And then Talon Peter, man, like, it's hard to find full Liberty games on the internet, but holy cow, can that guy make shots? Like, some of these stats look made up. I heard from analytics people on different teams who were like, what are these stats? I was like, yeah, dude, it's crazy. He was one of only 3 players in all of college basketball last year to have a true shooting percentage over 70 that wasn't a center, right? Like, he just made every three he took. He could dunk. He was a high school high jump state champion. Like, he just is such a unique kind of player in that he really makes threes and he's really athletic. And so, when you get to pick 54, it's kind of just, shrug, pick somebody who has an obvious kind of one skill and see if you can develop the rest. They've done that in the past before with, like, Cassius Stanley's athleticism, for example, and then, kind of go from there. I think that's one way to handle that pick, and that's what they did here, and it's so obvious. Like, when he played Oregon in the tournament, he didn't have his performance wasn't that great, his shooting percentage wasn't that great, but when he came in the game, because he was their sixth man, Oregon immediately was like, okay, our best defender is on him, and they're going to chase him around the floor the whole time and not let him get open, and it worked very well for them in that game. They crushed Liberty, but that was, even though he had a poor game, it was obvious how good he could be just by how much respect Oregon gave him on defense. So I get why they made both of their picks, and it was, I think, a little telling that they believe in their ability to get good centers in free agency that they didn't draft one.
Tony, I asked this only because this very staff made him a big free agent offer a couple of years ago. DeAndre Ayton has been bought out in Portland, and he's on the market.
Yeah.
I'm a no guy, but where are you at on DeAndre Ayton?
I've never been. It's kind of weird his whole career because he goes from, saying things like being so amped about being a max contract player and like being a statue on defense to, at his best, he's awesome, right? He's averaged a double-double every single season of his 7-year career, which is like a crazy feat. And he can hit the glass and be a dunker. And in that finals run for the Suns, like, he was defending pretty well. It's like, oh, this guy's pretty good. It's pretty obvious that a lot of centers who can catch lobs would fit well with Tyrese Halliburton. He doesn't have a lot of range as a shooter, even though he takes a lot of fadeaways. So I'm saying a lot of words to say, yes, I think DeAndre Ayton's pretty good. I would be curious how much the Pacers would be willing to spend on. I mean, if they lost Miles Turner, they'd be willing to spend, I think, on a different center. But if they keep Turner, it's hard for me to imagine them spending any sort of more resources on the center position. To me, it seems like a team that is stuck with very limited options at center, like the Hornets, like the Lakers, would be more interested in having a guy like Ayton on their team.
So I can't
the Hornets,
interest you in,
I got it back.
There
I got
you
it
go.
back to the Hornets.
There you go.
I got it back.
I was like, I can't interest you in
That's more mentions for that team anywhere at any time in this nation than the last 10 years.
I can't interest you in dominating, Tony. He gave himself his own nickname, dominating.
I know. He did give himself that name, didn't he? He's not a bad player. He does have a weird rep compared to his skill, doesn't he? But he's not a bad player. It's just, like, has he ever really tickled anyone's fancy outside of one playoff run? I don't know. I've never felt it.
Tickled anyone's fancy. Tony's got to be like 82. Like, I haven't heard this phrase since I worked at an assisted living home and years ago. But no, I love you, Tony. I do want to ask this, though, and I want to pivot a bit to the Fever. Caitlin Clark, most All-Star votes of all time, I believe, this past weekend.
Yes,
she was an All-Star captain. Just your thoughts, not only like on the All-Star stuff, but just the state of the team right now. They're 8-8, I believe. She's still out with the groin injury. If you were the GM, if you were the coach, would you be thinking about playing Caitlin Clark tomorrow night, or which way are you leaning just from your perspective? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, is it worth it to have her go out there if you can give her a couple more days off before potentially returning this Thursday for an actual real game that matters more perhaps than just the pool of money?
Yeah, it is a tricky spot where, like, I bet they would have been thrilled in some ways with her injury if they played last Friday and then they were off till Thursday, right? If they didn't qualify for this game, it'd be so easy to do the healing. But it's interesting. Like, the Commissioner's Cup Finals is a big deal, obviously, and there's a lot of money at stake given some of these players' salaries in the W on Tuesday against and they get money either way, even for second, but against a good Lynx team, like, chance to prove yourself, all that. They already beat the Liberty. Who knows? But yeah, like you're saying, that's what it's for. It's for pride and money, not your record. And for a team that's had so much, like, the best way I've described it, or I've heard it described, is like start-stop this season. Okay, everybody's healthy for one game, and then Sophie's hurt. Oh, Caitlin's hurt. Oh, Stephanie White's missing time. They just haven't really had everybody or everything available very often. So it's been so hard to assess how good they are and what they're trending towards, and they are 8-8, and that's fine. But it's just been really hard for them to kind of build a rhythm and show that they can improve. They're good, right? They're a good team. I think they've proved that. It's just hard for them to get any rhythm and get going off the ground. And so Leah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell have been so good, but outside of that, it's been kind of up and down elsewhere. So it'd be great if they won Tuesday to say they won the Commissioner's Cup and everybody makes more money. Like, that's great. But yeah, then you're still 8-8, and then you have to play the Aces, who just beat a very good Mercury team 2 days later at home, right? So it's really tough to kind of figure out how that would work. If I'm Caitlin, and then the Lynx are my favorite team as a kid, and I can play a marquee game up there for huge bragging rights on a huge stage, yeah, I bet she wants to play. I bet the Fever want to win, but given the course of their season, it's just kind of a tricky spot that they're in.
What's your read on the DeWanna Bonner situation?
Yeah, that was weird, right? I think if you're the Fever, you obviously wanted her to be playing. Of course, you signed her. She was an all-star last year, but it was even beyond personal stuff that we don't maybe know about, like just basketball fit, it wasn't good, right? Like, we could see that watching games. And Stephanie White was her coach last year in Connecticut. The system is a little different, not like crazy, but it's way faster. I think they want to be an up-tempo team this year, but she never really gelled as a starter. Off the bench, she had some nice games when Caitlin was out with an injury, but there was some reporting that she didn't care for coming off the bench. But Lexi Hall was playing better than her, right? Like, Lexi Hall fits the system better and was playing better. They should start Lexi Hall. It made more sense. So there were a lot of reasons that it looked like it was being a goofy fit, but very rarely do you just see it end that fast. And that's what made this tough for the Fever, is her trade value's gone at that point, and it's so hard to make in-season trades in the W because they have a true hard cap at a certain number. So it just became kind of untenably tough for both sides to to do anything about it. And it did kind of sound like there was some, decision from both parties to have her step away and have that be worth it. So once they realized no trade was going to materialize, I think this was a fine outcome. And already Ari McDonald, who they signed with the roster spots, giving them way more, right? She's been quite good for them, already starting with Clark out. When Caitlin plays, it'll be the first game they've had both of those players available. But yeah, it's super strange, super unique. And, it's hard to say if it makes anyone look bad or good, but it's certainly not good for the Fever or Bonner. That's something that everybody was so excited about, just didn't work out at all.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you stopping by and spending time with us this morning. Hope your summer's going well. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for tickling our fancy.
Wow. Wow. You're becoming an ageist.
I am. I might be an ageist. Tickling my fancy. I did not expect to hear that from Tony East, but that's my brother.
Like,
so.
I'm starting to think that anybody over the age of 35 is just not your jam.
No, I got called Unk this weekend because I'm turning 30 pretty soon here. So I got the ageist comments back this weekend, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it is what it is.
You don't mind beating up on JMV in basketball, though, do you?
No, he invites me. And
Okay.
so, again, I'm telling you now, JMV, if you're listening, which I know you aren't because it's 9:22 a.m. and you're probably never up this early, but when you hear this, when you invite me to come play basketball again, I don't want to hear any excuses about your calf, brother. If I run past you and I get a layup, I'm not trying to hear nothing about how you were injured recently. If you're out there, it is what it is.
All right, let's check it down, Mark Dykton, on a Monday morning. Start with the Indiana Pacers. A couple of roster moves we were just talking about with Tony East. What can you update us on, JB?
Yeah, so this is from Tony East reporting that the Pacers extended a qualifying offer to Isaiah Jackson, Quentin Jackson, and Enrique Freeman. The headliner of that trio will be Isaiah Jackson. They're willing to bring him back for $6 million. He could sign that contract right now, or he could wait to get other offers, but it shows that the Pacers are interested in having him come back as one of their reserve big men. And then they also picked up the team option. It's not guaranteed for Tony Bradley, another center position update there. And
the big question is, what will the team and Miles Turner do with one another as he hits free agency? What do you think the timeline looks like on that?
I'm not so sure. It could happen at any point in time. It comes down to numbers, man. And sometimes when it could be a little contentious because there isn't a team out there to pay Miles Turner, but he also wants his money. So it could take a little bit longer to get to the actual number. So maybe it'll take a week or maybe it'll take a month. I don't know.
All right, Mark Dykton doing his best Stephen A. Smith over there. What is that game you're playing right there?
Oh, Royal match. All of a sudden I got an alert, and I'm like, what is this? And so I was like, okay, I'll turn it on real quick.
We can tell you the Indiana Fever play tomorrow night at Minnesota. Whether or not Caitlin Clark plays there remains to be seen. 8 p.m. start, 7:45, the fan pregame show here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Commissioner's Cup is on the line.
Big money on the line as well. So we'll see if Caitlin will help her teammates win that money or be cheering them on and win that money.
All right, Major League Baseball yesterday. The Cincinnati Reds at home edged the San Diego Padres by a score of 3-2. Houston Astros shut out the Chicago Cubs by a score of 2-0. And the Cardinals shut out the Cleveland Guardians by a score of 7-0. And Mark, were you at the Indianapolis Indians game yesterday?
Yep. Yesterday we were taking in Jurassic Weekend, so did that with the family. That was a good time. It was hot as all blazes, but I had a good time. Dinosaurs out in the outfield, and Indians got a nice win, so that was good. I sweat through my shirt, but that was kind of expected.
All right. The Indianapolis Indians did win that game by a score of 3-2 over the Omaha Storm Chasers, if you're keeping track, and the Tribe have a 3-game winning streak right now.
By the way, I don't love that the Cardinals fans are starting to get a little chirpy all of a sudden because Alex Golden was in my mention saying, oh, don't look now. The Cardinals have won, 10 of their last 13. I'm like, be quiet. I don't want all this Cardinals chirping going on. So sick of them.
Pretty soon we're going to have a drop for the Cardinals too, right?
They don't go to their own stadium to see games anymore, apparently. They don't like the ownership, but they've got probably as many wins as they have had fans in Busch Stadium, but that's okay.
All right. Still a nice place to watch a ball game, though. You ever been there?
Yes, I have been there.
Beautiful
I saw Cubs Cardinals a few years ago, and I was like, what can I get to eat around town? I didn't see anything, so we had to hit the road because I'm like, there's nothing to eat downtown.
The entire downtown, you couldn't find anything, huh?
Nothing good. I'm like, come on, St. Louis. Where's all these barbecue joints and everything like that? Right. Nothing to be found.
I will be watching a little bit of the Reds and Red Sox tonight. I think that'll be an interesting game to watch this evening. That might be taking up part of my evening this evening, James.
All right, I'll let you have at it. I'm not the biggest baseball guy, but when it comes to playoff baseball, that's when I'll lock in.
Did you play Little League baseball at any point in time?
No, and
No?
I probably should have. Honestly, that's one thing I will do when I have my future kids. I will get them in all types of sports. All I did was play basketball, and as you can see, it did not turn out very well because I did not go to the NBA. So I blame my parents for not making me a better all-around athlete.
No IndyCar this past weekend. They will get back on the track at Mid-Ohio coming up on the 8th. And, Mark, we never got back to it. Who was the winner of our family four-pack to go see the
that
Indy
was
11?
Casey. Shout out Casey. So he won the family four-pack. We'll have tickets all week long to the Indy 11 games, so make sure you're tuned into the Fan.
All right, coming up in a moment, more in-depth talk on what's going on with the Pacers and the NBA, also a little bit more on the Colts. We'll even open up the phone lines. You got something you want to say over the past weekend, we are here for that at 239-1070. It's the Fan Morning Show. James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, Kevin Bowen off today. Mark Dykton in despite playing, what was that game again?
Royal match.
Royal match. All right, we'll continue next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. I was trying to get your attention over there. Oh, boy, James Boyd. Here we go again. I'm minding my own business, looking through some stuff during the break just to see if anything new has popped up or what's going on. And ESPN.com has way too early looks at the 2026 NFL draft. And who do you think Matt Miller has the Colts taken? And again, who knows where they're going to end up, but just for the sake of this argument, he had
Manning.
Number 11. No. Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. Quarterback.
I mean,
here's what he says. Anthony
I would
Richardson.
prefer Arch Manning.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if the Colts are going to get him where they're going to draft. It's the question, right? Can you imagine another Manning coming here? The hoopla, the excitement.
I mean, that would be like a dream for most people.
Do you go out and throw an Arch Manning jersey on the statue over there, or what do you do?
No. Can't mess with the statue.
Okay.
But I will say, it's not surprising that it's a prediction because I look at it like this. I think Kevin before we went on break was like, "Hey, do you think it might have been in Mark's I gotta know." I believe you might have asked us, Mark, if we believe the Colts will make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I said no. And if they don't, that could be largely because of the quarterback play.
The odds were heavy that they would not make the playoffs.
Yeah, so if you don't make the playoffs, Anthony may not be the guy anymore. Daniel Jones on a one-year deal. Would that mean you're drafting a quarterback? So it doesn't seem like it's out of the realm of possibilities, but for the Colts' purposes, they got to be hoping that, Anthony in particular, maybe not Daniel Jones, but Anthony, he is your number 4 pick from a couple years ago, that it all comes together. But like I told you all, and I've been saying all summer, you're asking for a lot to happen at one time. And it's never all come together for him in 1 year when it comes to the health, the accuracy, the consistency. It's never happened throughout his entire football life. To have it happen in year 3 in the NFL would be sort of a mini miracle, in my opinion.
It should be noted on Matt Miller's thing, also, Arch Manning is not listed on this.
Yeah.
He says it's because he thinks he'll stay in college for the 2026 season. So that's
this
why
will
he
be
will
his
not be
first
in the
full year
start.
as a starter, so who knows what's going to happen there.
Arch, it's time, brother. It's time. The people
Spread
in
those
Indianapolis
wings
want you
and
to come home.
Here's the interesting thing. Let's say that the Colts start the season and everything goes wrong and they're 1-5. At that point, do you just embrace the march to try and to get to that spot? And then does Arch Manning say, "Oh, the Colts are picking number 1"? That could be interesting.
So you're saying, should he pull an Ace Bailey and try to get to, choose where he wants to go?
I'm saying it's June 30th, and I'm just curious to run 8 million scenarios. That's what
I
I'm
have
doing.
eyes for only pork tenderloins.
I did have my first pork tenderloin. By the
And
way.
report.
It was pretty good. I might have got it from Cluster Truck, but it was I mean the bun is huge. I mean the bun is small. The pork is huge.
Honest to goodness, Cluster Truck does not miss. They don't. Doesn't matter what you get. They don't miss.
His Korean beef and broccoli is calling his name. I think you missed it last week.
Lots of things though.
I think you missed it last week, Jeff.
Huh?
You're missing the Korean beef and broccoli. But no, I agree. Shout out to my boy Evan Sherrill, who is the best smelling man in Indiana.
He does smell divine. It's insane.
I'm telling you, man, it swoons me.
You guys know he is married, right?
Hey, I'm
I
just
don't
saying.
care.
No.
The studio never smells better than when Evan Sherrill's in here. I'm like, the BO just disappears all of a
There
sudden.
you go.
Here's what Matt Miller said, to your point. Anthony Richardson's injuries and lack of development led to the Colts signing Daniel Jones this offseason. Barring major improvement from Richardson or a breakthrough by Jones, Indianapolis will be in search of a quarterback. Nussmeier showed flashes in his first season as a starter, throwing for 4,052 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 picks. The son of Saints offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier. Garrett plays with fire and energy. He's not afraid to take chances. If he cuts down his interceptions, Nussmeier has the velocity, accuracy, and playmaking ability to move up draft boards. Glowing report.
Hey, I'm just let's for the sake of my sanity, I'll just keep it locked on or focused on the upcoming QB competition, or more of it, the continued QB competition throughout training camp, which is only 3 weeks away. I'll be out there in Grand Park in my bucket hat. I believe Mark has been asking you all to ask me to sign your bucket hat.
Yeah.
I will not do so. I'm not
Why?
that famous.
Oh, if someone asks,
Come on.
if
You got a 12-year-old with a bucket hat, you're gonna turn the 12-year-old kid down?
Yes, I'm going to tell him to pick better idols. No, I'm joking.
Just
I mean, I've done it, but like,
just because he wants an autograph doesn't mean you're an idol.
Ask Anthony Richardson or, Justin Wally or Tyler Warren for an autograph. You do not want – I don't think the James Boyd autograph will age very well over time.
What if they say, like, James, I subscribe to The Athletic. I love your work. I need your signature. You're going to be like, sorry, kid, you bother me.
What if he's a young, aspiring journalist?
I'm going to tell him, hey, pick a better role models, kid. Charles Barkley style. No, I do it. I've done it. But, again, I'm just like, why? Why do you want this? You want more important people.
Yeah, I've done it, too. And I'm like, I've devalued the thing you had me sign. I don't know why you want this.
I think the first time, it doesn't happen a lot. The first time it ever happened to me, a young kid, I was speaking at an elementary school, a couple of kids, and I'm like, what? Really? Why? Did, but I didn't get it. So
I'm telling you, man. I will say one autograph that is certainly very popular and will remain popular for the end of time is Caitlin Clark. And for those who might have missed it earlier throughout the show, she is an all-star captain. She has officially made her second all-star team in just her second year in the WNBA. She pulled in the most votes in WNBA history, which was, I believe, 1.2 million. And I am not surprised by that number, Jeff, because like I've been telling you all, like we've all said to some degree, she's on a different level of fame and stardom than the rest of the WNBA and really the rest of other athletes in America. Like I would venture to say Caitlin Clark is probably top 3 most famous athlete in America right now.
Probably. And, you feel bad for some of these little girls and their families as she's been hurt and out. They've had these tickets purchased for a long period of time. And some of these folks, for example, that game in Dallas, there were folks driving in there from Oklahoma, Louisiana, different places that had tickets for a long time. Yeah, you still go and you have a good time and you enjoy the moment, you enjoy the game, you enjoy the time with your family, whatever. But man, that's got to be a huge letdown if you're a 10 or 12-year-old girl and you're just excited to go see Caitlin Clark and just can't play that night.
It's tough. It's tough.
I mean, she's the reason they're moving games to arenas and everything like that, bigger arenas on road games and all that, because she is a massive draw. Everybody wants to see her, and that is the burden that comes with being that level of superstar, is that your expectations that you will play every single game, and when your body says no, you got to take a break, you're letting a lot of people down, and I don't envy her being in that situation.
No, not
I'm
at
sure
all.
she feels that weight on her shoulders.
You know what, though? I think that in some ways, though, just the indirect effect that she has, for example, the last 2 games when they played Los Angeles and at Dallas, maybe there's a little girl in Los Angeles that's watching the game thinking that Caitlin Clark is going to play. She doesn't play, but maybe they see Kelsey Plum and they go, oh, I like her. I like the way she plays. How many girls went to that game against the Dallas Wings and they saw Paige Beckers and they go, oh, we have a really good player on our team too.
Yeah. I mean, Paige is phenomenal. And honestly, I believe her and Caitlin are around the same age. I know Paige stayed in college a little bit longer because of the injuries, but they were both putting the NCAA on notice early on. And now we see what they've done for the WNBA. I remember years ago, I actually had a chance to talk to Caitlin Clark one-on-one at Big Ten Media Days. She was going into her sophomore year. She just won Big Ten Freshman of the Year. And at the time, it's kind of eerie. Like, the quote that she gave me, I'm paraphrasing, it was something about, like, this is only the beginning of women's basketball, women's sports being treated the same, because they had, for the first time in a long time, the Big Ten media availabilities on the same day for the men and women.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually over at, I believe, Lucas Oil Stadium at the time. And she could not have been more right about the explosion of women's sports, and she's been a catalyst for it. So looking back at it, I'm like, dang, that might be the only time I ever, like, Caitlin Clark is ever in a public place and only one person is talking to her at a time. And not that she wasn't a big deal, it just was that she wasn't to this level yet, where now I'm like, man, I'll probably have to put in a request with, Congress to get Caitlin Clark one-on-one because of how big she is. And so it speaks to her level of greatness and then what she's done for sports.
And we'll find out probably not until just before game time whether she's going to be available for the Commissioner's Cup tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, I would think that they're probably going to hold out on that. Unlike the NBA, the WNBA doesn't have the hourly reports of the injury updates. They usually just put it out once the day of, and so we'll usually find out tomorrow. Well, I believe they'll have a shoot-around or something like that, so maybe they'll tell us at shoot-around in the morning when they're in Minneapolis tomorrow.
But even then, they can list her as game-time decision and see what goes on.
Exactly, so we'll see.
And the report I got over the weekend is she's doing some light shooting drills, nothing defensively, nothing where you have to move and cut and run a lot, just kind of working on her stroke, and I have to think these leg injuries have had something to do with her recent shooting slump, don't you think?
Yeah, I would think so. And it's all been her left side so far, so just hoping that she can, get right.
Evan just sent us the link for tomorrow's
Oh, yeah, look,
delivery.
he's giddy now, baby. Yeah.
I love Evan Sherrill so much, man. He's the best. He is
I'm
the
telling you,
best.
man.
Jeff.
I'm telling you, man.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll finish up strong, look ahead to what's happening tonight, and maybe a quick look back at the last couple of days as well as we continue on the Fan Morning Show for a Monday, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Happy to get back in the seat, doing a thing on a Monday morning, getting ready for. I'm going to watch some baseball tonight. Reds and Red Sox. I'm looking forward to a little interleague play. I'm kind of interested in that baseball game. I kind of took the weekend off from sports. Did a little bit. Didn't watch much after the Fever game on Friday night. James, I know you were up at a high school basketball tournament over the weekend. What was your sports weekend like past that?
It was not past that. It was literally all that. I felt like I was in like a time capsule where like when I emerged, I was like, oh, the rest of the world was actually happening outside of here because I didn't check my phone. I didn't watch any games. I saw a couple updates here and there. I barely texted anybody back. And so, yeah, for those who are probably still left on red, I am sorry. I will resume my life in Indianapolis.
So you just checked out altogether?
Pretty much. I barely even saw my family. I mean, I didn't see my sister. I got there Friday. I didn't see my sister until yesterday. After the tournament because I was getting up very early to go to the tournament and coming back very late. And when I would come back, she's in the bed or she's out with her friends or whatever. So I got to see her yesterday and she told me that was unacceptable. So I have to see her again this weekend for the 4th.
She'll be glad she still wants to hang out with you. That's the big thing.
Oh, we
right?
locked in, man. Me and my twin gotta have a good relationship with your sister. So yeah, it was good. And like I said, excited to, I guess get back in the groove a little bit. Tomorrow night, we got the Fever game, Commissioner's Cup. Whether Caitlin Clark plays or not, it remains to be seen. But I do want to see her, just hear from them to kind of give us an update on where she's at physically. She did say, I believe yesterday or the day before, she's doing everything in her power, obviously, to get back on the floor. Don't want to rush it. I know she was out there planning like some compression tights during practice. Maybe it'll help her feel better, get the blood flowing, whatever the case may be. But beyond that, I know they have another game, I believe, Thursday against the Aces, another marquee matchup with Asia Wilson, Caitlin Clark. And so we'll see how it all shakes out.
It's funny. The last 6-8 weeks have been such a rush and so much going on from the beginning of the Pacers playoffs to the beginning of the season for the Fever to all of the month of May and some incredible racing and storylines and everything else that happened at IndyCar, including some of the off-track stories that took place right after the Indy 500, and then going right into, Eastern Conference Finals and the incredible comeback wins that the Pacers had. It kept going on and on and on. I was here for all of it. But I got to tell you, once we got to the draft and passed the draft on Wednesday night in that first round and a few second-round picks for the Pacers on Thursday, I just needed to catch a breath for a second. Just needed to catch breath for a second. So, yeah. Uh-oh. What do we have now? Mark?
The WNBA is expanding to Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia over the next 5 years. That will push the league to 18 teams. So WNBA, Caitlin Clark effect.
They've been in Cleveland and Detroit before.
They are expanding and going to 18.
They had the Shock and the Rockers with those two before.
Yeah,
I
want to say
Rockers and the Detroit
Jenny
Shock.
Busek played for the Cleveland Rockers.
For a year, she did. In fact, I actually called a game that she played in one time over in Cleveland.
So there you go.
But they're coming back, so that's official now too. So
does that mean the league season's going to even get bigger now? 18 teams. Are we playing everybody? You got to spread that out, I think.
I mean, possibly. I see. Yeah, this is from the AP, so we'll certainly see how it all goes. And I guess it depends on at what rate you get the leagues to come into the WNBA. Like, obviously, all of them will not probably ready at the same time. How does that all work out? But I want to say having 18 teams total would be good for like probably conferences or whatever because, I believe right now they have 13 teams this year. So
just one big league.
Yeah. So maybe that'll have a little more rivalry feel to it as well.
The other thing, go ahead.
No, I said I like it.
Yeah,
I like the expansion.
I wonder what the price of admission was for those expansion teams.
Oof, I mean, it wasn't cheap. I was a little surprised to see that, the Golden State Valkyries are the most valuable WNBA team already. And I was like, wow, they're expansion team, but I guess being in that California market helps a little bit. I want to say the Fever are maybe third.
They looked up the speed when we were there last week. They lost 88-77, I think.
This is true.
Did you see, James, you were out of town, so you might have missed this, and Jeff, you were out of town as well, so you might have missed this as well. Did you see the potential report of the NHL coming to Indianapolis? Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
I saw a passing note on that, but I find that one hard to take seriously right now, knowing what I know about the NHL.
Yeah, my thought with that is, while I would love to see it,
that'd be great.
You also have, near team NHL teams in the vicinity, like the Blackhawks, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Detroit Red Wings, and the St. Louis Blues. Usually the NHL doesn't want to try to dilute those fan bases and whatnot if you've already built attention. I would love to see it. I just don't know how likely that is. There's other teams that they listed down there. I'm trying to remember who exactly it was. I think it was like Cleveland and Houston and some other teams there, but they're trying to push the expansion for their league as well. And Indianapolis was one of the 4 teams that was named as, potentially coming there. $2 billion buy-in by the Board of Governors to get an NHL franchise, though.
Yeah, I'll go, check the mattress after this and,
maybe
see what I got.
some of the Eli Lilly company
Yeah, man.
can pony up something like
I
that.
always got a stash, I always got a little stash.
Interesting. What was your experience over the weekend for sports past the Indians game?
Kind of keeping it all together as far as the, doing Indiana sports talk. The Naz Reid situation, trying to figure out the domino effect of that having on Miles Turner. The Caitlin Clark situation with the groin injury. Was she going to play in the Commissioner's Cup? All kind of stuff like that. So I was locked in because I kind of had to be doing Indiana sports talk on Friday and Saturday night. But Sunday outside the Indians game, I just kind of relaxed and took the girls to a water park and chilled out and enjoyed the nice weather.
I'll tell you the one thing that my biggest observation from the past couple of days in sports, and I go back to the game that I watched on Friday, and I had watched all the Fever games so far. Kelsey Mitchell, we forget. I know with Caitlin being here and all the players they've added, Kelsey Mitchell is a player in the WNBA, James. Like, she is good.
Oh, absolutely. I think she's one of the more underrated players in the WNBA and has been a trooper. Stayed with this franchise through the dark days and now seeing the fruits of her labor pay off with a better team and obviously more wins, which is what she's been chasing throughout her career.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch. So that's what we got going on tonight. Just baseball, I guess, more than anything, Mark. And I don't think the Cubs are playing, so what are you up to?
Probably watching Monday Night Raw because I'm a sicko.
Do you watch that with all three of your daughters? Are they into that?
They want to watch it even when it's not on. Like, is it on? I'm like,
who's their guy?
They like Cody Rhodes a lot. They like Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins. They like them all. And then they ask me, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, because sometimes they can't tell. So I'm like, I'll tell you.
Are they into the good guys or?
Yeah, for the most part, I think so. I'm like, why is John Cena bad now? I'm like, well, John Cena did some things. He's not a good guy right now. Maybe in the future he will be, but not right now. We boo that man.
What's his comeback arc? Does he stay heel forever, or does he come back
he's retiring at the end of the year, so they better wrap it up soon.
Huh?
He's got like 15 dates left. That's it.
What's your expected story arc there?
He'll turn good at the end and lose the title and go on to the sunset, kick rocks and go do movies and TV shows.
He probably makes a couple $1 million for every picture he does.
Absolutely.
Good work if you can get it, JB.
Yeah, if you can get it. I'm doing radio though. I don't think I want to go through any tables or chairs.
All right, what's your night look like for sports? Anything?
Nope, I'm just chilling for the most part.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for us. We're going to have a Jake Query back in the seat for the midday show today. Did a nice job filling in for him with you and Eddie on Friday. Appreciate that. And then, of course, JMV is out today. And Greg Rakestraw, the one and only, is going to stop by. And so Greg will always have some good things. I always learn something about what's going on when Greg sits in. He knows everything and everybody that's going on.
Encyclopedia.
Right now. It's good stuff. All right, so we look forward to a big day of broadcasting for all. We'll be back tomorrow morning. You and I will be back. KB will be back on Wednesday. Enjoy your Monday. We'll talk to you soon.